Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me? Hey guys, how's it going? If you can hear me, hit one. And it seems like you can. Great, fantastic, excellent, 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 excellent. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to go through where we're at with coronavirus. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I so appreciate it, and I thank you very much. Some of you expect finished videos, like produced videos, like the videos I usually put out, and others are interested more in my discussions of current events, specifically the coronavirus and whatnot. And starting in April, I think I'm going to add a second tier. The second tier, the $5 tier, will be just one video per week of the produced videos that I do. Right? I have several that I've postponed because of last week's live stream and this week's live stream, and I'm going to be putting those out starting on next Wednesday and just continuing on forward. Now, insofar as these live streams, some people really enjoy them. Some people are interested in what I have to say about current events. And so I'm going to set up a second tier for that, and it'll start on the 1st of April. And so that way, if you're interested in these kinds of live streams to talk about what's going on in current events and finance and whatnot, I'll be happy to do them for you. And if you just want the polished, finished videos, I'll do those and you can enjoy those. So yeah, so both sides will be happy starting next April 1st, April Fool's Day. So let's get started. This is called the Discussing the Great Depression 2.0 stream. And let me outline first what I'm going to talk about so that you know where I'm going with this conversation, and then I'll dive into it, one at a time. Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the timing of the coronavirus. That is, with the available data now, which is very early, I'm going to try to extrapolate and project into the future this current data and try to make it as conservative as possible so as to figure out when this pandemic will end. When it will end in the sense of like when it will peak, and then when it'll start winding down, and when we can get back to a normal kind of life instead of basically being under house arrest as we all are, right? So this is no fun for anybody. And yeah, so we want to know the timing, number one. I did a video on the Open channel a few days ago about this, but here it's going to be briefer and more to the point and not so spurgy because I was very upset with myself in that stream. I felt I was like losing my shit, and that was just, I just didn't like the stream. And anyway, that's my problem. We're going to do that. That's just going to be a few minutes. Then we're going to talk about the measures that are being applied by both the US government, the European Union, and also the central banks, specifically the Fed windows that are being open, the Q eternity, Q everlasting that's being implemented, and also the $2 trillion stimulus, 2 trillion with a T, 2 million millions stimulus that appears to be ready to close between the Democrats and the Republicans. We'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about specifically why I am not so certain that the stimulus is going to help, because I'm going to talk about the fact that this is a demand side problem, not a supply side problem. And I'll get to that in a minute. By the way, it would be handy, it would be helpful if you have a pen and paper handy just to write anything down, and I'm going to throw some numbers at you, and I'd appreciate you correcting my math if I screw up. Okay, so we're going to talk about the differences between a demand and a supply side problems, and why this is a demand side problem. And finally, the million-dollar question, of course, which is, will this be deflationary or hyperinflationary? Because I think a lot of people are worried about that. Finally, or near the end, I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I were investing. Okay, now I have to emphasize something. I am not a financial advisor. This is not a financial advice program. I am not giving anybody any financial advice, advice or counsel or whatnot. I'm going to tell you what I would do under different circumstances. If I were well off, if I were not well off, if I had a decent job and maybe I'm going to lose it, if I'm working, hand to mouth and I've lost my job, I'm going to tell you each of the things that I would do in different circumstances. Okay, that's what I would do, and I am not giving you any advice. Okay, you got the picture. You guys are clever. You know what's what. Um, hit me a 1 if you know what I'm talking about and you get what I'm going at. Okay. Okay. And finally, I'm going to talk about when this ends, will there be a bounce? Okay. Yeah. Some sound disruptions. Okay. There are some sound disruptions. Okay. Okay. Well, it seems to be okay. Okay. Super valuable. Okay. Okay, I'm going to assume that you guys can all hear it properly, and I'm going to just dive right into it. Okay, the timing of the coronavirus, right? Now, it looks from all projections that I'm going to talk about US because I know that the majority of my audience is in the US, and like it or not, the United States sort of like marks the pace for the rest of the world. And also, a lot of the things I'm going to say about the United States can sort of like scale down to other countries. Okay, so to the other countries, you're going to have to forgive me, but understand that it's just easier to talk about the problem, the situation in the States, although other countries are in deep, deep trouble. But okay, I'll get to that in a minute. The thing is, see, at this time, it looks like by March 30th, the United States will have 100,000 coronavirus cases. It seems to be growing at a 10 times rate every 10 days. It seems to be doubling every 2 to 3 days, okay? So if you just stretch out what has gone in the past, 10 days ago, roughly, it hit 10,000, actually it was like 5 days ago, it hit 10,000 cases. 10 days before that, it had hit only 10,000 cases. So if you stretch that out into the future, which is kind of crazy on the one hand, and let me give the justification just a little bit, but if you just stretch it out, what you get is the following. You get 1 million cases by April 10th, 10 million cases by April 20th, and 100 million cases by April 30th, okay? Now, of course, I know that this is crazy, yeah, because it's also stupid because you should never just stretch out a projection based on past data, because also what happens is that as you stretch out into the future, the environment becomes saturated. Those people who are already sick are not going to get sick again. Okay, so the number or the pace of growth of the disease is not going to be as 10 times every 10 days as before. Okay, and I acknowledge that. I'm saying that that's sort of like what we're looking at. And parenthetically, I'm already sick. I think I do have the coronavirus. I've been having odd symptoms over the last 10 days or so, but I'll tell you about that at the very end of this thing. Oh, and by the way, at the very end of this, we will be taking questions, and so hold your horses. Okay, so if we just project out into the future, by the end of April, we should have 100 million cases, and basically that would mean the entirety of the United States. Now, is this reasonable? Because of the saturation that I mentioned before, it'll take longer. Think probably mid to late May that it'll saturate everything, that everybody who's going to get it is going to get it by the end of May, okay? Now, if you think of it in those terms, right, that by the end of May, everybody who's going to get it will have gotten it, then, and you also add in the factor that it takes roughly 30 days from first symptoms to the disease passing through and you recovered, right, or unfortunately pass away, either one of these, the case, your case is resolved either in death or recovery, right? And it takes 30 days. So you could say to yourself that roughly on May 1st to May 30th is going to be the majority of the cases. So those people are going to be sick between for 30 days, right? So that would mean that they'll be recovering starting on June 1st through June 30th. So you can realistically say that by the 4th of July, the majority of the people who were going to be sick will have gotten sick, and they will have gotten better or passed away. Okay. Now, let's stop here for a second on this particular issue of whether they're going to pass away. We have to face facts that I think that a lot of people in the United States are going to die of this disease because so many people are so out of shape. Simple as that. It's not complicated. The United States has a population of 330 million people. Only 160 million of them are fit. you have 100 million people who are overweight and an additional 70 million who are obese. Okay? The people who are obese, the mortality rate of those who are infected who are obese will be catastrophic. Okay? Just back of the envelope kind of numbers. If you think that of the fit people, only 1% die. And of the overweight people, only 2% die. And of the obese people, only 3% die. And by the way, that's incredibly unlikely because it'll probably be a lot more. But let's just, for shits and giggles, say only 3% of obese people die. 1% of 160 is 1.6 million. 2% of 100 million, 100 million overweight, is 2 million. And 3% of 70 million, which is how many obese people there are, 3% of 70 million obese people is 2.1 million people die. You add up those numbers, and you can reasonably infer that the United States will suffer 5.7 million people dead. And that is a huge number, and it's a tragedy. And we have to think that that's what's more or less going to happen. If the disease burns through in May, in the month of May is the peak of it, and it burns through into June, by the end of June and into July 4th, that's when it'll just be winding down, okay? Let's add 30 days, just for shits and giggles. Let's say that rather than, by the end of June, let's say by the end of July. And let's even be more conservative. Let's suppose that all of these measures are effective. They are effective, and they bring down, flattening the curve and all this stuff, brings down the number of people who are dying. And because of it, it stretches out the disease, because by flattening the curve, you're stretching out the disease. That's the whole point of it, because what you want is fewer people hitting the infirmaries, the hospitals, all simultaneously. You want to spread that out so you don't overwhelm your system. I heard a very great metaphor about this situation. It's, if you drink 3 gallons of water in a single day, you're going to pee a lot. But if you drink 3 gallons of water in an hour, you're going to die, which is true, by the way, And so, yeah, that's basically it. So if they flatten the curve, there will be fewer mortality, fewer dead people, but the disease will have stretched out longer. So in the timeline that I put out before, I was saying that the peak of this would be like in the month of May, and people would be recovering. The majority of people would be recovering in the month of June. So let's add, just for the sake of shits and giggles, 2 months, 60 days. So we're getting to Labor Day. It is reasonable at this time, with the information that we have available to us, to say that this disease will peter out by Labor Day. Okay? That's when it will end. One way or the other. Okay? There is going to be a lot of crises, a lot of things between now and then, but basically we have April, May, June, July, and August, the next 5 months. 5 months that are going to be really, really dicey. Okay? Okay, so that's the timing of it. Okay? That's what I'm thinking at this time. Now, the measures that are being applied by the financial powers that be, that is the Federal Reserve and the other central banks around the world, as well as the federal government in the form of the Trump administration, headed by, the Treasury Department at this time is headed by this fellow Mnuchin, who is a former Goldman Sachs banker, who's a very sharp customer. He's no fool, okay? They are negotiating a $2 trillion stimulus package. Now, this stimulus package, parenthetically, the Democrats are looking like fucking idiots, because most people who are paying attention are saying, why on earth did you torpedo the Sunday bill? Because the Republicans had put together a bill on Sunday that was fairly sane, okay? Because the idea of the Republicans is you have to bail out these companies, because they have no income, because they're not selling anything, because people are on lockdown. Demand. There's no demand, see? These companies will go bankrupt. And if they go bankrupt, see, you're going to lose a lot of accumulated capital. Now, what does this mean specifically? You see, when a company goes broke, see, of course, the factory doesn't necessarily disappear, but the legal structure does disappear. And the employees leave it. They leave it, and it passes over to an administrator and whatnot. And so, in a very real sense, it's not possible to go bankrupt and then restart that easily. Okay? A lot of companies, a lot of businesses, small businesses especially, if they go bankrupt, they're just blown away. Think of a restaurant, a mom and pop restaurant on the corner. If they go broke, they can't pay their lease. They have to take all their furniture, all the stuff that they've accumulated in the restaurant, throw it out, clean out, and return the location to the landlord, right? And so, if it goes bankrupt and the business is gone, what are you going to do? Yeah. I mean, it's gone, and you show up a day late after they've declared bankruptcy, after they've cleaned out everything. You show up with a stack of cash, but what good is that? See? Because they got wiped out. And so a stack of cash is not going to save them. It's all an issue of timing, okay? You need the stimulus as quickly as possible so that people can sort of like batten down the hatches and make the smart financial decisions necessary to continue long term, right? Now, that's what the Republicans were thinking about. The Democrats they came in with all kinds of bullshit, Green New Deal shit, forgiving the postal office its debt, canceling student debt, all kinds of crazy ass bullshit, right? People said fuck off. I mean, they even had like crap like they wanted like diversity in the boardrooms of all the companies, and they had to have a diversity officer for 5 years. I mean, what the fuck? Fuck off. Fuck off. It's not time to play games. This is an emergency, right? And I think the Democrats realized that they shot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in their own right hand. That's how bad it was, okay? And because everybody who paid attention to this thought that they were fucking assholes. The only people who are all in favor of this shit are Twitterati losers who live in their own bubble. I mean, the real world, the Democrats, what they've been doing in the last few months, they are setting themselves for a catastrophic loss in November. I'm not saying that Donald Trump and the Republicans have done such a great job. They haven't. But they are looking less bad than the Democrats. And I think that there are a lot of Democrats. There's Demexit that's trending, Democrats exiting the Democratic Party. Yeah, a lot of people, they're just totally demoralized. Democrats are demoralized by their own party, and they don't want to vote for it. And so, it's going to be fucking awful. But, okay, be that as it may. Oh, shit. Just real quick, hit a 1 if you can still hear me. Have I been talking into the blank ether, or are you guys still there? Please still be there. Hit 1 if you're still there. I'll wait for you guys to catch up. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Okay. Okay, sorry. I got a little carried away there. So anyway, the Fed, now what's the Fed doing? The Federal Reserve is basically doing quantitative easing. They're going to go out and they're going to buy not only bonds, not only treasury bonds, they're also going to buy corporate debt, and they're also going to go out and buy equities. Equity is, of course, stock, right? Now, this is fucking insane. Now, what's the problem here? They keep saying that there's a lack of liquidity. Lack of liquidity. Oh, we need liquidity. Bring us liquidity. Jerome Powell, Mr. Powell, bring us liquidity so that we can, be saved by this lack of liquidity. No. That's all bullshit. You see, lack of liquidity means there's nobody in the market who's willing to pay what I want for what I got. That's what it is. It's a bullshit excuse. A simple example. I have a car. I've had it for the last 3 years. I want to sell it on eBay or Craigslist or whatever the fuck. I advertise it for $20,000, right? And put pictures of it and all the rest of it, and people look at it and no offers. Do you hear me say, oh, there's a lack of liquidity in the car market? No, of course you don't hear me say that. That would be fucking insane. What do you hear me say? You hear me say, I think I have to lower the price of my car. That's what you hear me saying, which is the truth. See? It's not that there's a lack of liquidity to purchase my car. It's that my car is overpriced and I have to lower the price. I have to lower the price to a point where the market is willing to pay good money for it. You see? That's very different. And so that's what's going on in the bond market and the stock market. Everything is overvalued because the fucking Federal Reserve and that fucking cunt Janet Yellen and that bigger asshole prick Ben Bernanke and this poor fellow schmuck Jerome Powell is cleaning up the garbage, but those fucking assholes have created the biggest asset bubble in history, in financial history. What what is it that they specifically did? You see, they kept on putting out cheap money. That is, money at low interest rates, right? Remember, interest rates is the price of money, and the Federal Reserve sets the price of money. Now, they set the price of money real low in 2008 and moving forward practically zero, because they thought that with more debt, people would spend more and the economy would grow and blah, blah, which is just so much bullshit, but okay. Now, all these companies, what did they do? They took on all massive amounts of debt. Okay, that's the corporate bonds. Corporate bonds are IOUs that a corporation emits so that they can get cash from investors and use that cash for, usually it's supposed to be capital improvements, like building a new factory, that kind of stuff, right? But what's going on is that during the last 10 years or so, especially over the last 5 years, these companies, they've been taking on this massive debt and using it to buy back their stock. They buy back their stock, and of course, when you buy up something, whatsoever it is, the price of that goes up because there's less of a supply, right? You're going out there, you're taking debt, cheap debt, that's being made available by the Federal Reserve via low interest rates on treasury bonds and whatnot. You're taking this cheap debt, going out there and buying up your own stock. The price of the stock goes up, and you look great because your bonus as the CEO is tied up to the price of the stock. So if the price of the stock goes up, you get a bigger bonus. And of course, you get a bigger bonus, and then you exit the company. And the company is left behind you with a high stock price, but mountains of debt. You see? Debt that they can service at this time, but it wasn't used, the debt was not used to build new factories, expand the company. No, no, no. It was just used to buy up shares of the company so as to prop up its price. So much of corporate debt is that. It's junk, it's crap, it's garbage, okay? So corporate bonds are mispriced. They are too expensive because the companies cannot properly service that debt. When I say service that debt, to those of you who don't know, it means basically they cannot pay back those debts, okay? And so those bond prices are severely overpriced. Nobody wants to pay what they're really worth, you see? And so the Federal Reserve is literally making money out of thin air and going out there and buying these bonds to prop up the prices because it's like a zipper. It's like a row of dominoes. You know, you pull one and the whole thing starts to collapse. You see what I'm saying? And so they are terrified that one big company with a lot of debt, one big corporation with a lot of debt will default. They are fucking terrified. I'll tell you which ones. The oil companies. Because the oil companies, right now there is a war going on, an oil war, between Saudi Arabia and Russia. Who can produce the most oil and drive the other to the ground, right? And that means that oil is going down in price. That happened before this coronavirus thing happened, right? But what happens with that is that, see, a lot of American oil companies issued a lot of debt to go into fracking and whatnot. And see, those companies, they make money when oil is roughly $35 to $45 per barrel. But right now, oil is a lot lower. Oil is like something at 25, I think. I haven't checked, actually, to tell you. I should have. Sorry about that. But the point is that, see, the price of oil is way low. And so these companies, these oil companies, American oil companies, they cannot frack oil and sell it and make a profit. And you need to make a profit in order to pay down your debt now, don't you? Yeah, of course. I mean, think of it in your own case as a householder. You have to pay off the rent, pay off food, pay off gas, and only then can you start paying down your credit card bills, your student debt, or whatnot. But you got to go with the essentials first. Rent, food, gas, right? Yeah, the same with companies. I'm of course oversimplifying, but you get the picture. See, they have to pay the essentials first before they can pay down their debt. They have $140 billion debt due over the next 90 days or so. And so if those companies start going belly up, if they get declared bankrupt because they can't pay back their debt, they can't pay back those bonds, which happens. If you don't pay back your bonds, the bondholder can go to a bankruptcy judge and ask that you be declared bankrupt. And when that happens, the judge, with the force of law, can take over your company and start selling assets, machinery, computers, anything and everything of your company in order to pay back the people that you owe money to. Because that's what a bond is. You owe money to the guy who owns the bond. You see? And so the issue is right now, Jerome Powell wants to make sure that no big company collapses. No big company does not pay its bonds. Okay, because if that happens, then it's going to be a cascading effect. One company goes down, and then investors are going to get nervous about other weak companies, sell the bonds of those at whatever they can get, and that company goes kaput, and it just becomes like a cascading problem. You see what I mean? It can become a cascading problem, and it can even bring down the US Treasury market, the US Treasury bonds, because the United States is so over indebted that it is reasonable to wonder if that debt will ever be paid back. That's why everybody's freaking the fuck out about this crisis. This crisis is really fucking serious, okay? But by the way, to go back a little bit to coronavirus and detour from this financial thing, they're all freaking out about the financial thing, but not that big of a freak out. They're more freaked out about coronavirus, which is real fucking interesting if you think about it. These guys, they're all fucking sharp. They all know more or less what I'm telling you. I mean, what I'm telling you is not like fucking novel, okay? This shit has been known. It's very clearly understood by all the players. You have to understand something that a lot of people forget. The people who are at the top, they might say stupid shit. They might do this and that, the other. But in general, they are very, very sharp customers. They know more or less what the fuck is going on. They are not stupid, okay? They might come across as stupid. They might make bad decisions. They might make bad decisions that benefit them somehow and fuck over everybody else. And everybody says, well, this is a horrible decision. And they're like, but they made good. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, these guys know more or less what's going on. The fact that they stopped the economy and created this enormous risk that the corporate bond markets are going to go kaflooey, that the US stock market is going to go kaflooey. Well, it actually did now, didn't it? It went dropped a third. Holy shit. And I'll get to that in just a second. But the fact that they were willing to take that risk, it means that they are scared shitless of this coronavirus thing. Okay? And you guys saw how Trump turned it around. I mean, at first he was just like, oh, it's just the flu, bro. Chill out, right? And then all of a sudden he's on the tube and he's like, we got to do something. And he's freaking the fuck out, right? Somebody must have given him a talking to now and must have scared the ever-living fuck out of him, right? There must be a piece of information that we don't know. It's as simple as that. There must be a piece of information that is so fucking horrifying that Democrats, Republicans, Wall Streeters, people in Washington, everyone is like, yeah, everybody go into fucking lockdown, stay home, okay? There must be something going on. Everybody in the political and financial leadership class is behind this policy of shutting down the economy. And they are perfectly aware of how dangerous that is, how catastrophic that could be. So if they know how dangerous and horrible the economic collapse can potentially be, and they're still pushing for this, then there must be some piece of information that we don't know that makes it clear why it is better to crash the economy and potentially suffer a multi-year depression, because that's what we're headed for potentially, and I'll get to that in a moment. It might be better to have that multi-year depression than to have this coronavirus shit. There must be something really, really, really key, okay? I have my suspicions. I'll tell you at the end of this broadcast, but okay, let's go back to the thing. Okay, so the federal government is negotiating, the Republicans and the Democrats are negotiating the stimulus package, $2 trillion, right? Okay. Now, the key issue is that they're saying that they're basically going to throw money at people. They're going to, give, what is it right now? I think it's $1,200, like one-off payment, and then they're going to increase unemployment benefits by $600 a week or something like that. I mean, like, it's basically to keep people from, being kicked out onto the street because they can't pay rent and they can't get food, okay? There are a lot of people like that. A lot of people who live, who are renters, who live paycheck to paycheck. And so now they are fucked. They are fucked 7 ways to Sunday, They have no income coming in because they've been told to be on lockdown, and they were probably let go. A lot of people have been let go. The unemployment numbers, holy fucking shit. Unemployment claims is projected to be 2.7 million, okay? To put that in perspective, the absolute worst previous record was 570,000, I believe, during the 2008-2009 crisis. Yeah, this is 5 times that. Okay, this is the worst thing ever insofar as like the economy is concerned, right? Okay, so what's going on? See, in economics, right, you have supply and demand. The famous supply and demand curve, like where the two curves intersect, that's the price, right? That's the whole point of it. Okay. Now, see, think of it in these terms. Um, when there is a lot of supply of something, what happens to the price of that thing? It goes down, of course, because there's a lot of supply. I'm like, take sugar, for instance, to give you an example. You go to a supermarket and there's like a lot of sugar. So what's the price of sugar? Well, it's cheap. It's $1 a pound or whatever, right? But like say in that same supermarket, there's caviar and there's very little of it. And there are these little expensive little jars, right? And there's very little of it, okay? How much is the price of caviar? Well, it's going to be $20 a gram or whatever the fuck, right? It's going to be much more expensive than sugar, right? Because there's a limited supply. Now, on the opposite side, there's the issue of demand. Now, there are some things that we have inherently a demand for, okay? And that we are always going to have. Yeah, toilet paper. Yeah, it says Dream Chaser. Yeah. And by the way, parenthetically, man, Jesus Christ, what the fuck were those stupid fuckers thinking? That they were going to go out and buy all this toilet paper, man? What? Okay, I mean, Jesus Christ. And you know the funny thing, just to make you laugh? Last week, I actually did run out of toilet paper, because yeah, I don't use that much, right? And I purchased, one of those 6-packs or 8-packs, like I don't know when, I mean, like months ago, right? And all of a sudden it ran out, and so I had to go and get fucking toilet paper to my embarrassment, and there was none left, right? And by chance in some supermarket I passed by, and all of a sudden there was this big pallet of toilet paper, and I got one, and to my embarrassment, somebody said, "Yeah, you want to get it quick," one of the attendants there said. And I'm like, "Lady, I actually need this shit. I'm not panicking like a little fucking spurgy-ass sheeple idiot." But, well, Anyway, that was kind of funny. But, okay, to go back to the demand problem. See, everybody's been ordered to go indoors, flatten the curve, maintain a social distance, blah, blah, right? So what happens with all those people who are going home? Well, of course, they're not spending money. Of course not, because they're stuck at home. They're not going out to restaurants. They're not going out to movie houses. They're not going out to rock concerts and for drinks or whatnot. The other problem that's happening is that a lot of these people lost their jobs. So fuck no, are they going to spend money? Of course not. They are not going to spend their money because they don't have that much money. They want to hold on to it as much as they can, right? Okay, so what happens there? What happens if you have a supply of something, okay? Caviar, like the example before, and you have caviar and you have a bunch of people who come in and they want caviar, and they're willing to pay the $20 for the little, glass jar of caviar. But all of a sudden, there are no people. Before you had 10 people who wanted to buy your caviar, right? But now you don't have 10 people who want to buy your caviar. You have maybe 4, 3, or 2, right? So what do? Think about it. The obvious, you lower your price. That's what you do. You start lowering your price, whatever it is, because there's no demand, okay? Yeah. Okay, so here you're starting to see the problem, okay? On the one hand, people are not spending money because they are out of a job and they want to hold on to their cash, and also they don't have the opportunity to spend because they're not out on the street. They're not out in the world. They're stuck at home watching TV. And if they bought a Netflix subscription and they got food, they're set. It's going to be boring as hell, but they're not going to be spending money, right? And of course, if they lost their job, they're definitely not going to be spending money. And so what happens to businesses that offer goods? Goods to people, goods to whomever. They're going to have to start to lower their prices in order to find customers. That's what's going to happen. There's lower demand. You see? Okay, so this is a demand problem. It's not a supply problem. It's not that there isn't enough of stuff to go around. No, no, no. There isn't enough buyers of the stuff to go around. And this is a key issue. See, in the last crisis, right? In 2008, there were plenty of buyers. There just wasn't enough stuff. Okay, there wasn't enough money. Okay, that was basically the problem. So the Fed just pumped out as much money as they could out into the system, so that there was enough money. It was a supply problem. But this time around, it's not a supply problem. It's a demand problem. People are not buying. Okay, because they either don't have any money or they're so uncertain about the future that they are unwilling to part with their money. And on top of that, they have no opportunity to spend their money. And I'm talking, grosso modo kind of thing. So it's a demand problem. So on the one hand, you think to yourself, well, if prices are going to go down, i.e., they're going to deflate, are we going to have deflation where every day the dollar is worth more? Or, see, the Fed, the Federal Reserve, that is printing up all this money to prop up bond prices. And the U.S. Federal government, the Trump administration, is going to get the stimulus package passed, and they're going to sprinkle money all over the economy. $2 trillion is 10% of the GDP. That's a hell of a lot of fucking money, right? Roughly. It's actually a little bit less. It's 8%. But anyway, they're going to spread all this cash all over the fucking place. Will this lead to hyperinflation? That's a reasonable question, okay? At this time, it is unclear. And I wish I could tell you if it's going to be one or the other. I think that short term, there's going to be a lot of deflation. Things are going to, your dollar will buy you more. And you can see it on the stock market. Before, on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right, you needed $30,000 to buy stock for the index, right? But now you only need $20,000. See, your money went up in value, in purchasing power, right? That's deflation. Prices go down. See, now you got to understand a lot of assets. I'm talking stocks, bonds, real estate, also commodities, are way overinflated. Way overinflated in price. Commodities, not so much. That's the only category that's kind of like on point. But insofar as real estate, bonds, stocks, they're all overpriced. There's been asset inflation because of the policies of the Federal Reserve and also the European Central Bank. I mean, I'm only talking about the United States, but the Europeans have basically done the exact same thing as the Americans, and so they're not like they're not like squeaky clean. On the contrary, they're as dirty as the Americans. But anyway, the Federal Reserve gave out cheap money, and this cheap money inflated the prices of all these assets, stocks, bonds, real estate. You have now, some property, like I grew up in LA when I was a little kid, right? And we grew up in a house, right? And my parents bought it for $40,000 in 1973. That house today is worth $5 million. And that's fucking insane. Come on, get the, come on, fuck off. That's crazy. Yeah, but that's what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, the whole asset inflation now, it's coming to an end. These assets are going to go down in price, and I'm talking about the price of the stock. I'm talking about the price of bonds. I'm talking the price of real estate. It's all going to deflate. Okay, so your dollar is going to be able to buy more, right? But what happens if the Federal Reserve and the U.S. federal government get so desperate, so panicky, that they start printing and printing and printing money? That could potentially happen. Yeah, I know. That asshole Larry Kudlow is saying that it's 6 trillion, but I haven't seen that official. I've just heard him say that it's 6 trillion. But anyway, this issue of like printing money, this is going to be 5 months, okay? 5 months. We're barely 2 weeks into this shit, right? But this shit is going to last for 5 months. I mean, on the likely 5 months, right? So you're going to ask yourself, will these assholes do something really fucking stupid and just like turn on the printing presses? Go for broke? Because if we get hyperinflation, it is going to be a fucking nightmare, okay? It will be a misery that is indescribable, okay? Because all the money that you will have saved up all your life, it's going to be gone, okay? It will be worthless. You can wipe your ass with it, In fact, it'll be cheaper to wipe your ass with it than to use it to buy toilet paper, for crying out loud, yeah? And you're going to be using $100 bills to wipe your ass because it will have in actual purchasing power, it'll be pennies, if that. Okay, that happens all the time. That people, governments, countries crash their currency. In Chile, in the early 70s, Chile lived through that. We weren't there in Chile at the time. Of course not, because the fucking communists wanted to kill my parents, right? And that's why we weren't living in Chile. But anyway, during that time, yeah, the fucking communists crashed the currency. Yeah, hyperinflation, 100% per month. That is, on the first of the month, your dollar would buy X, and by the end of the month, it would buy half X. Like that, in a month, okay? Yeah, it's going to be a fucking disaster. Okay, but the thing is, we don't know if it's going to be deflationary or hyperinflationary. Right now, it could go either way. Although, if the government and the Federal Reserve don't do anything really rash and stupid, then it will be deflationary. But that's the problem. You see, all of these economists at the Federal Reserve, they have all been trained to fear deflation above all things. They are terrified of deflation. Okay? They will do anything to not have deflation. Now, this is a very, very dangerous thing. Because if you have an attitude that you will do anything in your power to stop deflation, you're going to wind up, running the printing presses for the currency, and you're going to crash the currency. Simple as that. Okay? Now, the Europeans have the opposite problem. The European Central Bank is really under the thumb of the Germans, right? The fact of the matter is the European Central Bank is based in Frankfurt. Now, Christine Lagarde, right, is the current ECB chairwoman, right? She is, right? Yeah. So anyway, their problem, the Germans, right, they will not allow the euro to hyperinflate because they have so much terror of hyperinflation that they are willing to crash their economy to avoid hyperinflation. I mean, that's how scared they are of it, okay? Because of the exact opposite reasons. Because back in the Depression in the 1930s, the US dollar suffered a deflationary spiral. Okay, now a deflationary spiral, let me explain it to you. It's very simple. See, I'm a person and I have $100, right? And I'm scared of spending money because crises, because I don't have a job, whatever. So I don't spend my $100. So what happens? I mean, I was passing by a store and there was like some shoes that were really nice. They cost $20 and I could have bought them. But I was like, no, I'm not going to buy them because I'm scared of what will happen in the future. I'm going to hold on to my $100, right? So that shop, right? They don't sell those shoes, and so the shoes. It's not just that the shop doesn't sell the one pair of shoes; it doesn't sell it to anybody, right? So they wind up going out of business because they don't have enough sales because so many people are not buying stuff, and so they go out of business, and the people working at the shoe shop, right? They're out of a job. Of course. And so what do? Well, they get together their cash and they say, how much cash do we got? Oh, we only have, I don't know, $1,000 or whatever. Shit, this had better last us a long goddamn time. Better not spend it on anything. So they don't spend it on anything. They don't spend it on, say, clothes, on like a nice coat. They'll just use the old coat. And therefore, what happens? The coat company, they start cutting their prices, cutting their prices, cutting their prices. Nobody buys them and they go out of business. And you see, the people who work at the coat company are out of a job, and this keeps on going and it accelerates. And so people start seeing the prices of everything going down, but there are more and more unemployed people. And so all these unemployed people are terrified of spending their money because they don't have any more, because they don't have a job. And so it just becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The Americans are terrified of this because that's what happened in what you call it, in the 1930s during the Depression. People were out of a job, they didn't spend money, and this created more unemployment. And they are fucking terrified of it. Okay, so the Germans, on the other hand, well, in Weimar Germany, what happened was that they had debts they couldn't pay. See? Does that remind you of somebody? Yeah, it reminds you of the US federal government today, right? Back in the 1920s, the Weimar Republic had to pay back the Allied powers, France and the United Kingdom and the United States, but mostly France. And they needed to pay them like a lot of money. And they didn't have a lot of money. And so they started printing the money to see if they could get out of it that way. And they kept on printing and printing. And pretty soon, they have wheelbarrows with money. Yeah. And they used the wheelbarrows of money to light the stoves because the cordwood was too expensive. It was cheaper to burn the money the bills, right, than to buy firewood. Yeah, that's a true story. There are lots of famous pictures of it, okay? The Germans never forgot that lesson. That happened almost 100 years ago, and it's still on their minds, right? Yeah. So they are just not going to, they are not going to hyperinflate. No fucking way. Not the Germans. They're not going to allow it. They will happily blow up the European Union before they inflate away the currency because they are terrified of it. It's their thing. Everybody has a trauma. That's the German trauma. And by the same token, well, we'll get to stagflation in just a little bit. By the same token, the Americans are terrified of deflation. Okay, so what's going to happen at this time? I don't know. Okay, because see, if you print money and offer money and push money and try to get people to borrow money, well, they might take the money, but they're not going to spend it. See, and that's the key issue. See, because there is a lack of demand. The lack of demand because people are unemployed and people are scared about the future, and so they figure it's smarter to hold on to their money. Now, there's something else going on too. See, a lot of people are heavily invested in the stock market for their retirement. Old people, they have been watching as their nest egg has been annihilated by the collapse in the stock market, and they are really, really scared. They don't have the money that they thought that they had, right? And so the Federal Reserve wants to prop up stock prices, not just for the fat cats and the C-suites, but also for all those retirees, all those people with 401ks and whatnot. They are really, really fucking scared, okay? And so they're in this terrible impasse, right? What to do, what to do. And so the only thing that they know how to do is to throw money at the problem. And see, these people think that the US has a limitless amount of money to throw at a problem. But every person, every country has a limit to its resources. There is going to come a moment, and it is rapidly approaching. It probably has already happened, and we don't know about it yet, but we'll know about it in the future when we look back. The US has likely already exceeded its ability to pay back its debt, okay, with the currency at the valuation it has now. The only possibility to pay back the U.S. Federal government debt is either to inflate the currency or to just default. Now, a default would be catastrophic, okay? Because see, and let me explain why. A lot of banks, they hold treasury bonds. They need it for capital requirement issues to show that they have enough money to cover all the debts that they owe, to show that they have the money to cover all of the depositors' money, right? So they have a lot of treasury bonds. If the U.S. government defaults on its treasury bonds, the financial system would collapse. I mean, life as we know it, financially speaking, would be over, okay? No country in the world would want to trade with the United States. It would be a complete clusterfuck of like ginormous proportions, right? But the United States has debts, so many outstanding debts, that they can't pay it. So the other possibility is to inflate the currency on purpose, to deliberately devalue the currency. But here's the problem. See, in a small country, a smaller country, you can devalue the currency. Okay, it's actually fairly easy because your currency is going to be valued in other people's currency, in a stronger currency, i.e. the dollar or the euro. But the American dollar is not pegged to anything. Okay, it's the top dog. It's the reserve currency. Okay, so how do you devalue the dollar? I think that the way that they devalue the dollar is by throwing money at people, and that would be the only explanation, the only way to do it, to just throw money at people. Yeah, I mean, like regular people, and have those people get all this cash. But of course, what's going to happen is that if you get like $1,200, it's great for you. You go out and you buy shit, and that's great, right? But if everybody gets $1,200, right? What happens to the shit that is on sale, right? It goes up in price, of course. Yeah, you get inflation. See? Okay, think of it in these terms. See, we're 10 players. We're sitting around a table. There are 10 of us, right? And we each hold $100, right? Or no, let me rephrase it. We each hold different amounts of money. Some of us have, $10. Some of us have $100, whatever. And we're sitting 10 people around this table. and see this cute little this cute little thing with big tits and a nice ass, right? She comes along and she puts like a product in the middle of the table, okay? She puts like a little thing of caviar. She puts a little thing of sugar. She puts a little thing of like that represents a car or whatever, right? And we bid on this shit, okay? We bid on the caviar, okay? She puts the caviar in the middle of the table. And what price do we arrive at? 20 bucks. Somebody says, I'll pay $5. Somebody else says, no, I'll pay $10. And then somebody else says, I'll pay 15. And finally somebody says 20. Do I hear more? No, no, fine. So the guy who offers 20 gets it, right? That's supply and demand, right? It's basic in auction, right? What happens if all of a sudden we all get $1,200 extra? The 10 of us, not one or two, all of us get $1,200 more. Well, automatically we think that, we've got more money. And so we look at the caviar, and the guy who said 20, somebody else says, no, 25, no, 30, no, 35, 40. You see? And it goes to the guy who paid 40. The inflation is 100%. The price of the product doubled. That's 100% rise. That's 100% inflation, right? But what happened here? We all got more money, but it didn't increase our purchasing power. See? You see the situation? Now, of course, just balloon this to the whole country. If everybody's got more money, right, and they go out and spend this money, then all the products are going to be more expensive. If you saved money, your savings are going to be worth less because other people are going to have more cash to buy stuff, right? You see? And so inflation hurts savers. It hurts people who have lent money, you see? Because if I lent you $100, right? And all of a sudden there's 100% inflation. Well, yeah, you have to pay me back $100, but in real terms, in purchasing power terms, the $100 you're paying me back is worth less than the $100 that I lent you back in the day, you see? And that's what the United States would have to do in order to actually pay down its debt. Devalue the currency. Put so much money out there that its debts, though in terms of the actual dollar number, it's still the same, but in actual purchasing power, it's been greatly reduced, right? So you say, yeah, that's what they do. They're going to inflate the currency. They're going to throw a lot of money at people, enough money that they just bid prices up and up and up for goods and services, and all good, right? That's how they're going to deflate the currency. They're going to inflate the currency, rather. Excuse me. That's how they are going to devalue the dollar, right? That makes sense. But here's the problem: if you're stuck in your home and you get $1,200, that money is essentially worthless. You know why? Because you can't fucking spend it. You see? That's the key issue. You're stuck at home. You can't go out and spend it, There's a limit to what you can get delivered, right? And so there's an issue there as to whether it will really be effective. And of course, it will be horribly unfair to savers. Savers will get it up in the ass. I mean, they will lose their shirts on this shit, really fucking unfair. Okay, so there's the issue of deflation, hyperinflation. Okay, now, let me get to the next stage of this discussion. The issue of what would I do if I were in this situation right now? What would I invest in? Okay, first I'll tell you about my actual situation. Right now, I have zero investments in anything, period. I am all cash. All cash because I don't know what the fuck is going to happen, okay? So I don't know if gold is good or silver is good or this or that, the other, I don't know. Right now, it's so fucked up that I prefer to just wait and see how all this decants before I make a move. That's me personally, okay? I've been investing since 97, okay? I've made a lot of money sometimes. I've lost my shirt other times. But all in all, I'm ahead. No crypto. Crypto is bullshit. Remember, no, Bitcoin is bullshit, okay? And never forget, anybody who says otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. Bitcoin is bullshit, and I'll explain in just a second, but hang on. Right now, I'm not invested in anything. I'm all cash because I don't know how this is going to play out. It's as simple as that. It's too early. It's too soon. We just have to wait. We have to wait and see how this all plays out. Okay? We have to wait and we have to watch how the stock market and the bond markets continue to collapse. The stock market is going to collapse more than the bond market. Okay? Because the issue of debt is more troubling than the issue of equity. Okay? And so, because see, if a company's stock price goes down, goes to zero, well, nothing happens to the company. It doesn't go broke or anything. Yeah? I mean, like, think about it. See, a stock price for Pepsi Cola or Disney or whatever the fuck, the price keeps on going down, 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 down to zero. It's never going to go down to zero. It's always going to be just some price that you don't really like, because if you bought it high and now it's low, you on paper have lost money. You're not going to like that. But how does this affect Disney or PepsiCo if its stock price drops 50%? Yeah, a lot of investors are going to scream at the board of directors. They're going to scream at the CEO because they're losing money, on paper at least. But the company, will it actually go bankrupt because of this? No, because the price of a stock, it's just the expression, the market expression of the value of the company. It doesn't affect the company, okay? It doesn't affect it at all, okay? It doesn't. Simple as that. But bonds, yes, bonds do affect it. Bonds are actually where it's at. Because see, bonds, debt, if the price of the bond starts going down, that means that investors don't think that it can pay back its debt, okay? And if that starts to happen, then other sources of income, either that is other sources of funding via debt, they get closed off. Of course, because like, see, if I see a company down the street, like, I don't know, XYZ company, and they can't pay their bond that they owe like next week, right? They owe a payment on their bond next week, and everybody's worried that they won't make it. And then XYZ comes to me and says, "Can I borrow money for you, CRP?" I'm going to say, "Fuck you. I'm not going to fucking lend you money because you can't pay that other debt because your bonds are collapsing in value." And an XYZ company might need that money, need that loan in order to turn around or whatnot. Especially now in these times where all these companies, they're not getting any cash because there are no customers, because everybody's at home. You see what I'm saying? And so because of that, the bond market is much, much, much more serious than the stock market. Stock market, Jerome Powell and the Trump administration can afford to allow it to fall. They can afford to allow it to fall to 20% of what it was at the start of this shit show. Yeah, a fall of 80%. Yeah, no problem. They can put up with that. I mean, a lot of our retirees would be screaming, of course, right? And a lot of people who are rich on paper with stocks, they'll lose everything. Yeah, sure, but they can afford to do that because no company is going to go broke. People would lose money. Investors, i.e. rich people, they would lose money, sure. But no company would go broke if the stock market collapses. The debt market, that's a whole other fucking ball of wax. Then you get real fucking trouble, especially now when there's no demand. Remember, demand. Okay. Okay. So, by the way, a quick parenthesis about Bitcoin. I heard about Bitcoin in 2011. I did a video about it on my main channel. Just go to my main channel and just in the little search thing on the channel, just look for Bitcoin, and it pops right up. I call it Bitcoin bubble. It's bullshit. Bitcoin is bullshit. It's always been bullshit. Okay. I heard about it, and at the time, I thought it was bullshit. I didn't invest in it, though I had the opportunity, because I thought at that time it was bullshit. Of course, I saw it rise in value. I could have purchased it like at $5 or some absurd price like that, and I could have sold it for 20,000. Sure, of course, I'd had the foresight, but it's not foresight. That's like, I wish I'd bought the winning lottery numbers last week before they made the drawing. You see what I'm saying? You can't predict that kind of thing. It was tulip mania. It's an insanity. Because, see, cryptocurrencies, there are basically two problems with them. Number one, they are not needed for anything, okay? They are not essential. There is a school of economic thought called modern monetary theory. They're pretty much imbeciles, but they do point out one thing that's very important. They say that the value of the currency is that you need that currency to pay the tax authority in that country, which is absolutely true. People need dollars in the United States because they need to pay the IRS. I mean, have you ever thought why in the United States people use dollars instead of like euros or Mexican pesos or Canadian dollars or yen or something like that? Why do they use dollars? Well, because they have to pay the tax authority in the United States in dollars. The IRS does not take pounds sterling, does not take euros, does not take yen, only US dollars. Okay? And it's a very, very clever insight of MMT because they're dead right. Every country in the world has its own currency, and the tax authority in that country demands you pay in that currency, not some other foreign shit, right? And therefore, in every country, you have a demand for that currency. People need that currency because they have to pay the tax man. They have to, or else they go to jail. They're obliged to make this payment in this currency. Okay? So what happens is that you have dollars to pay the tax man. The person in Canada has Canadian dollars to pay the Canadian tax man, and so on in all the countries. There is a demand. But Bitcoin, there is no demand for it. People say that, oh, you can, like, I don't know, in the dark web, buy drugs with it. Yeah, sure, but, if you show up to some drug dealer, right, and you say, I don't have any Bitcoin, but, I got $100, he'll sell you the dope that you want. No question. Yeah, of course. Okay? You don't need Bitcoin for anything. Okay? You don't need it. That's the key issue. That's issue number one. Issue number two is something even more obvious. See? Cryptocurrency, it's an invention, it's a fabrication, right? Bitcoin, right? And there are a whole bunch of different Bitcoins. And there are different kinds of Bitcoin, right? There's like Ethereum and this and that. And Facebook for a while was toying with the idea. They got BTFO'd over that shit when they were like talking about Libra and Calibra and all that crap, right? They got blown the fuck out, and that's gone and dead and buried. It's never going to be resuscitated. But anyway, there are all these currencies, right? Okay. What's the difference between them? Answer me that one, Sherlock. Yeah, all you Bitcoin buffoons. Sorry, I really don't respect them, and I'll tell you why. Because, see, there's no difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these currencies. The only difference is marketing. It's like the difference between Pepsi-Cola and Coca-Cola. Yeah, a few people can tell the difference in taste, but bottom line, it's the same shit. The difference is marketing. Yeah. And more to the point, see, you can have as many cryptocurrencies as you want. The only difference is going to be the marketing of it. And therefore, its valuation is not going to be based on anything intrinsic or even extrinsic. It's only going to be based on people's mood, their feeling about the fucking currency, about the cryptocurrency. You see what I'm saying? And so Bitcoin was the first one, and so it's the most expensive, blah, blah. But, there's no difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum or anything else, right? And, well, anyway, the point is, the proof is in the pudding. This collapse, what happened with Bitcoin? It got shellacked. Yeah, it got its little crypto ass handed to it. Yeah, it got wiped out, And so cryptos, they're foolish. They're tulips. For those of you who don't know, tulip mania was a mania that swept through Holland in the 17th century. What happened was that tulips were brought from Central Asia to Europe, and they're beautiful flowers, right? And so people just in Holland became enamored of these flowers, of course, and they're so delicate and so pretty, and they're yellow and purple and blue and whatnot, and they have these beautiful green leaves, right? And so people started speculating on them, and they started speculating, and it became a mania. And they started buying more and more and more expensive, right? They started trading houses for like a couple of these flowers, right? That's how bad it got. They just went crazy, right? It was a mania, tulip mania. That's what they called it, right? It was the first financial bubble, yeah? Because, see, the tulips, they're just fucking flowers. They're very pretty, yeah? And beauty like that has no price, but ultimately, they're just fucking flowers, okay? And of course, the bubble burst and everybody cried. You see what I'm saying? But tulip mania, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, it's the same shit, okay? And I know what I'm talking about. The fact that the marketers of cryptocurrency were so successful as to sucker in all these buyers to buy this shit, it's a tribute to their their shilling, to their I personally think that the whole thing is a fucking scam, basically, right? It's bullshit. A lot of people made money. Yeah. What were those? The Winklevi twins. They made shit tons of money. The Winklevoss twins. Winklevi is the name that Mark Zuckerberg gave them. Very clever of him. Yeah, the Winklevi twins, made a shit ton of money off of that shit, right? Because they were smart customers. They got in on the ground floor. They saw an opportunity, and they're not stupid, right? But it's bullshit. And the fact that we're in this crisis now and Bitcoin is getting fucking hammered, well, proves it's no store of value. It's nothing. It's like fucking trading cards. It's exactly like trading cards. Baseball trading cards, right? I mean, some people love that shit, right? And they're willing to spend a whole fortune on it, but it's inherently worthless now, isn't it? Yeah. You don't need fucking baseball trading cards for anything. Yeah. Oil, you need it. You need it to run a factory. Gold, yeah, you need it. There are lots of industrial processes that require gold. Ditto with platinum and silver and all the other precious metals. Okay? There is a need for this shit. But cryptos, there's no need for it. There's no thing that you cannot do with nothing, with anything else. There's nothing. Okay? And like I said, it's no different. It's like Pepsi, RC Cola, Royal Crown Cola. I was living in Ecuador years ago. I'm talking 40 years ago, right? And there was, I swear to God, it was this shit called Inca Cola. And it was like green or yellow or something like that, some weird color like that, but tastes like Coca-Cola. Okay? It was the weirdest shit, right? We lived in Ecuador for like a year. My dad got transferred there because some shit was going on in his company. But anyway, yeah, and there was Inca Cola. And it tastes the same as Coca-Cola, but it just had this weird color. It was really fucking funny, right? I think it tasted like Cocoa. I forgot. I mean, this is years ago, but you see my point. See, the difference between Coke and Pepsi and Royal Crown, it's just marketing. It's just bullshit. It's just a smooth line. Okay, so don't go into cryptos. Okay, going back to, I mean, rant over on the crypto thing, right? What I would invest in. Okay, I personally now, and this is true story, I'm totally in cash. I'm just sitting on cash and I'm waiting. Okay. Of course, I have in my personal portfolio, I have properties. Okay. Um, but that's like a part of that. I mean, let me phrase it. In liquid assets, okay, I don't have stocks. I don't have bonds. I am all cash. I'm waiting to find out what's going to happen. Okay. I was thinking about buying silver. I thought that silver might be a good play, but then silver sort of like fucking collapsed. I am very leery of gold because gold is very easy to manipulate because it's a very, very small market. People forget that, by the way. Uh, there isn't that much gold in the world. People think that there is, but there isn't. Okay, there are a lot more diamonds, and diamonds are really like they have no value. I mean, there are so many diamonds. Okay, that's why the De Beers cartel exists, to control the amount of diamonds in the world. Because if the actual amount of diamonds in the world were out there, diamonds would be worth a couple of bucks, because they're very, very common. Gold isn't. There isn't that much gold, and therefore, because of it, the marketing gold can be easily manipulated. Okay, and they're probably going to manipulate it now. Especially if they start printing and shit, they're going to create the illusion that gold isn't going up in value, and it's going to be very easy to do that for a government like the United States. Okay, and fuck yeah, would they do it? I mean, they're not stupid. Okay, they're going to do that because they don't want gold to shoot up in value, to actually maintain value, because then it would show how much actual real inflation is going on if they decide to inflate the currency. You see what I'm saying? So, and silver collapse, I don't quite know why, but then again, silver is an industrial metal, and perhaps its collapse in price, rather, is because silver will no longer be used in industrial processes. That has happened with platinum, for instance. Platinum is an essential component in catalytic converters for cars, for the smog emissions shit. And so, what's the price of platinum right now? Price of platinum, I saw it was like 600 or some shit like that. I couldn't fucking believe it. Yeah, it's oh wow, it's gone up. Yeah, it's 717. Yeah, let me see the live platinum prices. But that's half of what gold is, and platinum should be much more expensive than gold. And why is it so cheap? Yeah, because it was I'm looking at a chart right now. Back in March 10th, it was at 876, and it collapsed to 600 bucks. Holy cow, man! That's roughly 20% of its value. It collapsed to $600, and then it's back at 700. But it's because cars aren't being made. See, the entire auto industry in Germany and the United States and Mexico is shut down. There are no more cars being made anywhere because there's no demand, because nobody's driving, because everybody's locked down, right? And so, since platinum is needed in the industrial process necessary for the catalytic converters, the price of it goes down. But like silver, I suppose the similar process is going on, but I'm not up on silver, to tell you the truth. And the fact that it collapsed so brutally just makes me like, what the fuck, Yeah, yeah. Holy cow! On March 18th, it dropped to 12. I mean, I'm looking at the price of silver right now. It was at 17. Let me find you the. I'm at AppMex. I'm going to post it in the chat so you guys can check out these charts of the precious metals. Right. I just posted it. It's right there in the chat. Yeah. So I'm like, holy shit, And palladium, I don't know shit about palladium. That's something that I have no interest and no knowledge of, and so I don't fuck with things that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And gold, yeah, it's up above 1650 after dropping below 1500. So it's gone up 10% in just a few days. But again, like I explained, it's such a small market. It's easy to manipulate. Okay, and I think that that's what they'll do. Okay, so I'm in cash. I'm in cash and I'm waiting. What am I waiting for? I don't know. Okay, but it'll come around. Whatever the sign is, I mean, I'll be paying attention. But whatever the sign is, I'll just wait. Okay, wait and just keep my options open. Now, suppose I were the following person. Suppose I was 25 years old. I'm 25 years old, and I have a job, and I just got fired from it because it shut down and whatnot. Right? I'm out of a job, and I don't have much money, and I live in some rental place or whatever. Right? What would I do? Okay, this is what I would do. This is what I would do. Okay? I would stop payment on every debt that I have, student loans, everything. The only thing I'd pay is rent and food. And I'd talk to my landlord and see if potentially he could give me a price break or some kind of break. And, dude, I don't have any money, shit like that, right? Student debt, credit card debt, fuck that. Fuck it. They can sue me. They can send a collector. They're not going to send a collector because, of course, all the collectors, the collection agencies, they're shut down. Everybody's in lockdown. Okay. Yeah, that's what I do. Number one. Number two, I would get everything I own, and sell it. No matter how small it is, just whatever the fuck I own, sell it all. Just get cash. Okay, right the fuck now. Then I'd do something else. This is probably illegal, but this is what I would do in those circumstances. I'm fucking desperate. I'm out of a job. I got no money, right? I'd get every credit card application I could get, and you can do this shit online and instantly get approved. Maybe I've worked really hard to get like a really good credit rating or whatever. Okay, well, now's the time to get as many credit cards as possible, the kind that give you cash, that you can take your credit card and go to a cash machine and get cash, and I'd max them all out and get as much cash as I can. All of them. You know who did this recently? Boeing. Yeah, Boeing, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. They had this revolving line of credit for like billions of dollars. I think it was like 13 billion, right? Revolving line of credit is well, you know what it is. So anyway, they went to their revolving line of credit that these banks had set up for them, like several big banks, and Boeing maxed it all out. They maxed out their credit card, okay? Because a revolving line of credit is essentially a credit card, okay? And they maxed out their credit card and got cash. Yeah. If I were in dire straits at any age, frankly, okay? I'm 25, 35, 45, 55, whatever the fucking age I am. If I can get a credit card, I'd get it and max it out and get the cash. Okay? I mean, for all of them. Okay? As many as I can. And of course, this is one thing that you can pull off once and that's it. I mean, you've blown your credit God knows how long. But I don't think it'll be that big of a deal because I think a lot of people are going to be in the same fucking boat, you know, and so it's not going to matter. Okay. The thing is, see, a lot of people are going to do it piecemeal, slowly, little by little, week by week. Okay. We all know what's going to happen. This shit is going down, right? This shit is going to last a long fucking time. So I'd be systematic about it. See, because a lot of people are going to eventually fall into the same situation. What they're going to do is they're going to max out a credit card, and then they're going to realize that they still need more cash, and they're going to get another credit card, and they're going to use that credit card to borrow a little to cover the other credit card and spend that money. And then they're going to, they're going to be again needing more cash, and so they're going to get a third one, and they're going to be like juggling all these balls in the air, right? They're going to keep on getting a new credit card to pay off the minimum balance necessary for the old ones and survive for the next few days until they get another credit card, until finally they blow up. They don't have any more money, and they have all these credit cards, and they're fucked, right? But they're going to do this over like 3, 4, 5 months or some shit like that, okay? I wouldn't wait around. I do it right in one go, yeah? Especially at the beginning, because see, from what I understand, right, if you get one credit card, like say in January, and then another in February, and then another in March, right, your credit goes down with each credit card application that you do. But if you do several all at once, okay, the system doesn't have time to factor in your new credit score. So if you have a high credit score and you go out and get 8 credit cards right in one go, you're golden. You can get them, okay? That's what I would do, okay? If I'm broke, or let me phrase it, not that I'm broke, but rather I have been working paycheck to paycheck and I'm a renter, okay? What do I do? That's the basic problem. I am living paycheck to paycheck. I have zero savings or very little savings, and I have a very good credit score, but no job. And I don't know when I'm going to see income again. This is what I would do. This is me, personally, okay? Now, of course, you can say this is immoral, this is illegal, this is this, that, the other, fine. But, when the shit gets heavy, you got to do what it takes to survive, all right? This is what I would do. I am not telling you to do anything. You can do as you see fit. You're a grown man, okay? But if I don't have any cash, I can't buy food. If I don't have any cash, I can't pay rent. If I don't have any cash, I can't survive. Simple as that. I'm going to wind up in a fucking homeless shelter. Okay? So, does blowing up my credit score worth it to keep me from the poorhouse, from the literal homeless shelter? Fuck yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to think twice about it, but I'm going to be smart. Okay? Get the cards that have the maximum amount of cash that you can get from them. Because see, your credit card, right? It's a little bit of plastic, a little piece of plastic, that inside that little piece of plastic, it has locked away spending power, right? But you don't want that spending power in the plastic. You want to extract that spending power and have it in a little pile of bills in your hand. That's what I would do, okay? I'm talking as if this were me, okay? I would be like, I don't want it in the credit card. I don't want it in the little piece of plastic. I want it in my hot little hand. I want that buying power, those dollars in my hand. That's what I would do. I would get as many as possible. I'd spend like hours scouring to get as many credit cards as possible with the highest spending limit. And this is the key issue, of course. It has to be cards where I can withdraw money from an ATM. Okay, or else, it's pointless, right? I just have a bunch of credit cards and, that's it. No. I have to, as soon as I get these cards, I go out and I max them, okay? Now, you should, if I were doing this, I would research something that I currently don't know, which is that if you apply to a bunch of credit cards and you get one, say, and you max it out, does that affect your possibility of getting more credit cards? I don't know that. I would research that on Google, which is pretty easy. I got the time, right? I'm just sitting on my ass at home. I can figure this shit out. So I'd find out what's the timing for withdrawing cash. If every card that I get, I can just go and draw out cash and it won't affect my credit score, and ergo, I can still keep on getting more credit cards. Is that the case? Because if that's the case, then I'd do that. But if that's not the case, then I'd wait to get all the credit cards that I've applied to. And once I have all of them in my hot little hand, I'm talking 10, 20, 30, as many as possible, Then I'd max them all out with cash. Cash. Okay? That's what I would do. And the whatchamacallit collector agencies or whatever starts hassling you and calling you at all hours, well, disconnect the phone. Fuck it. You don't care. You need the cash. It's simple as that, okay? And believe me, see, this is going to happen all over the fucking place, okay? There are going to be a lot of smart customers who are going to realize exactly what I've told you, that if they are cash poor, now is the time to blow up their credit score, fuck the credit score, and just get as much cash as possible because nobody knows how long this is going to last, okay? And don't worry, if the government starts handing out money, credit cards can't touch it, okay? They have to go through a whole bunch of legal hoops before they can get to that money. So don't worry about it, okay? But that's I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm not suggesting you do that. It's what I would do, okay? If I were cash poor. Now, if I were a person with a very large stock portfolio that has seen it drop 30% after I've recovered from my heart attack, what would I do? If I have a large portfolio of investments, 401k, whatnot, I would assume that this shit show is going to continue. And therefore, I would think to myself, you know something, even though I've lost a third or maybe more, 40%, I'll get out now. I'll take the hit. I prefer to I'll just take the hit. Just get it over with, okay? Because the stock market is not going to go back up to 30,000, okay? Anybody who thinks that it's going to go back up to 30,000 is dreaming. They are high on something extremely powerful. It's not going to happen, okay? The stock market is never going to get back to 30,000, okay? It would take the kind of levitation we're talking about, man, is like fucking Yoda with the X-Wing fighter. You know what I'm talking about? That kind of levitation. There's no Yoda around. It ain't gonna happen. Because there's no inherent value in those companies. That's the thing. See, those stock prices, they were artificial and fictitious to begin with. We're becoming more realistic about the actual valuation of the stock. So you see, the stock market, there's something called the dead cat bounce, okay? If you take a cat, a live cat, and you throw it out the window from the 20th floor of a building, well, first of all, that makes you a fucking psychopath. But if you were to do that, right, what happens to the cat? Well, it's going to go splat on the ground below, down 20 floors, right? It's going to go splat. But of course, it's going to bounce, yeah? It's going to hit with so much force that the fucking dead cat is going to bounce, right? So the cat fell 20 stories, hit the floor, died instantly, and then bounced, a couple of floors. But what happens when a cat bounces up in the air? It falls back down again, yeah? Perhaps lower than before, yeah? Yeah, we're going to be experiencing a lot of dead cat bounces, okay? We experienced one yesterday, as a matter of fact. It went up 11%, Holy shit. What's it at now? Let me just check the Dow Jones. Excuse me. Oh, it's up 4%. Yeah, this is typical dead cat bounce. Okay? And it might keep on going up for a while. If I were a person with a stock portfolio and it's gone up, quite a bit, from its lows, let me see, the last month. Yeah, it hit the low of 18,591, right? From a high of, when was this? 29.5. Oh man, that's fucking funny. The high of the Dow Jones Industrial Average was on the 12th of February, 29,551. That was the high. Okay. By the 12th of February, I had purchased all of my short positions. Yeah, I remember that day. Yeah, that was I'd been buying short positions, during, that was the week I was on a skiing vacation with the kids and the wife, and and they were hassling me because I was on the phone talking with bankers and shit and getting short positions and shit. Naked shorts, motherfucker. Oh yeah, I played it hardcore. And the 12th of February, oh man, that's fucking funny. That was the last day of my shorts, that I bought shorts rather. And look at me now. Yay. But anyway, if you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I'm going to put it up on the chat, okay? And I want you to look at this chart. This is just a Google chart, right? There it is. Now, if you click on it, okay, it's the 6-month Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? Now, here's the thing. See, it's slowly going up, 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 and up. And then starting on the 21st of February, it starts to go down. And the fucker keeps on going down and then spikes up. Down and spikes up. Down, 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 spikes up. Down, 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 spikes up. Down, 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 spikes up. See, those are dead cat bounces. Look at that chart right now, okay? I mean, I wish I could do it on the fucking thing, but, you know, I'm a boomer about the tech. And by the way, when I start doing the regular weekly streams about news and shit, okay, for the second tier of the Patreon, which I'm going to be setting up soon, well, I'm going to be using a software that I've just discovered, but I didn't use for this stream because I needed to familiarize myself more. It's called GoToWebinar. That seems to be very, very good. It's a paid thing. It's actually kind of expensive. It's going to be like $250 a month to do it. But I figure if there are enough people who want me to do it, I'll fucking do it. You know. So yeah. So anyway, if you look at this chart, it goes down and bounces, right? Those are dead cat bounces every time. So if I own stock, the next swing up, I'd sell. Like for instance, today it's up 395, you know, 3.95%, right? It's at 21,523. I'd sell it all. That's me, okay? Because I think this market has a lot more to fall, okay? And there are going to be a lot of days when things pick up, and you know, they're going to be like these big days of 1,000 points up, and everybody's like, "Yay, break out the champagne," you know. But no. See, because again, the key issue. The U.S. economy is based on the U.S. consumer, okay? And the fact of the matter is, most of the Western democracies' economies are based on their consumers going out there and spending money on shit, right? Now, all those people, those consumers, they're locked up tight. They're at home watching Netflix. They're not spending a goddamn nickel on anything, right? That's what's going on. There's no demand. If a company finds itself in a market where there is no demand, it can lower the price of its goods and services, lower the price of its inventory, right? But then it starts to cut back on its production. Why? Of course, because if there's no demand, why is it going to keep on producing shit, right? Whatever it is that it produces, it's going to shut down factories, right? Of course it is. Excuse me. It's going to shut down factories. It's going to lower prices. And that means less revenue. Less revenue, what does that mean? The company is less valuable. The price of the stock goes down. Yeah? Because remember, the price of the stock is merely a reflection of how valuable the company is. And the value of the company is determined by how much money it makes, profit. Not necessarily always. There are lots of cases, like Amazon, for instance, where the company didn't make profit for years, but it was increasingly more and more valuable because it was expanding its market share. But those are specific cases. In general, companies are the value of a company is based on its income, on how much money it makes, how much profit it makes. If companies are not making profits, or they're making radically reduced amounts of profits due to the lockdown, then the value of the stock is going to go down, right? It's inevitable. So if I sell now, I'm going to take a hit. It's going to hurt. Fuck yeah. But it's going to keep on going down. So why the fuck would I wait around? You see what I'm saying? I mean, the shit is, it's the fucking Titanic, right? Why am I going to book a first class ticket on the Titanic if the fucker is sinking? It's sinking before our eyes. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, it might bob up in the water, and you might think, oh yeah, it's not really sinking, it just bobbed up a little bit, you know? Well, yeah, it bobbed up a little bit, but then kept on sinking. You see what I'm saying? Look, there have been great fortunes of people who've lost it all because they chased the market to the bottom, okay? This is a little pivot in the conversation. See, what do I mean by chasing a market to the bottom? Okay, you're an investor, right? And the fucking thing is up at 29,500, right? On February 12th. And the shit goes down. It goes down 5, 10, 20 points, 30 points. I mean, percentage points, right? Holy shit, it lost a third of its value. And you say, buy the dip, you know, and you buy the dip. You take your cash and you buy more of the stock, and it keeps on going down. And so you say to yourself, fuck it, man, it's going to turn around. It's got to turn around. It is going to turn around, okay? And so you go into debt. You go into margin call, all right? And you go into margin to buy more stock. But then the fucking thing keeps on going down. And then your margins get called, and that's it. You're bankrupt. You chase the market to the bottom. So many fortunes have been lost. I'm talking fortunes, billions of dollars have been lost chasing a market to the bottom. I did a video on the main channel, on CRP channel, called the sunk cost fallacy. Sunk cost fallacy, yeah, you don't want to give up a losing position. That's basically it. Yeah, you've lost money on some position, and you can't walk away because you can't stand to lose that money, and so you're going to hold on to it a little bit longer. And what happens? You hold on to it a little bit longer, and it keeps on going down. Okay. If I'm in the stock market right now, I'm getting the fuck out of it right the fuck now. Everything. Sell everything. That's me. I'm not telling you what to do. You're grown men, right? But me, sell it all. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's making money. It doesn't matter. There are some companies that are going to be making money now, okay? Like Netflix, for instance. They're going to make a shit ton of money, yeah? Because everybody's got nothing better to do, I mean, yeah, I've been thinking about getting a Netflix account myself, to tell you the truth, but actually I am spending my time more usefully. But anyway, that's for another conversation. The point here, see, this is going to keep on going south, and therefore at whatever bounce up, I exit. It's bounced up for the last 2 days. Now would be like the ideal time to exit, okay? And of course, it's going to be painful. You take your losses and whatnot. It's going to hurt, blah, blah. But, you got to take it like a man, okay? You got to think of it in these terms. See, you're in prison, right? And, you're in prison, and like the head of some gang says, I'm going to rape you in the ass. And if you fight me, I'll just kill you. Okay? So what do you do? I mean, it's a horrifying choice. Yeah? But the guy, he's like the head of some gang, he's got the muscle to prove it. He can off you just a snap of his fingers and you're dead. But he says, you're a tasty little bitch. I'm going to fuck you in the ass, and I'll let you live, and I'll leave you alone after that. Okay? I'll just fuck you in the ass the one time. Okay? But if you don't, submit, then I'll kill you. Well, what would you do? Well, the smart man would say, okay, just use some lube, please. Yeah, that's what a smart man would say. Because, of course, being raped in the ass is not a fun experience. I mean, I personally have never experienced it, but I can imagine, right? But, I can't imagine death either, but I'm guessing that, being alive is better than being dead. Yeah? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you gotta understand that, see, if you hold on to a losing position, it's going to be much worse later. Yeah. And it's very, very difficult. Human beings are built to fall into the sunk cost fallacy. Okay. Look it up. The sunk cost fallacy. Okay. Okay. So I told you what I would do if I were broke and had nothing, and no job and whatever. And I told you what I would do if I had a lot of stocks in my retirement, or just I had a big stock portfolio or whatnot. Okay. In either case, I would go to cash. In the one hand, if I don't have anything, I just get a lot of credit cards. I'll go into a lot of debt. Get the cash, max out all the credit cards, but getting cash, not buying shit. Okay. Oh, by the way, if there's some card that you can get easily, but you can't get cash out of it, you can only buy shit with it. Well, then do the smart thing. You get the card, go down to Best Buy or on the Best Buy website or wherever the fuck, buy the item, then go around the block and return the item and get cash. Yeah. Whatever it takes, get cash. That's what I would do. Okay? If I had no money, I just get a bunch of credit cards and a bunch of loans from whatever source I could get and just get cash. And if I am heavily invested in the stock market, I would just cut the losses and just take the hit. Just get raped, fine, but I'll live. Okay? That's the key issue. I will live. Okay? Okay, now here's the thing. Somebody just asked in the chat, what about real estate? This was Dream Chaser asked me this. That's a good question. See, real estate isn't going to go anywhere. Okay? Now, if you own property outright, okay, now the value of that property is not going to be as high as it was when you bought it, assuming you bought it at a relatively high rate. Okay? Now, if you took out a loan for that property, you're going to rapidly find yourself underwater in that loan because everybody's real estate portfolio is going to take a hit because people are just not going to be buying. Again, this is a demand-driven problem. There's going to be no demand. Nobody's going to want to buy a fucking house. If you have lost your job, you don't know when you're going to get some fucking income, right? Do you think that you're going to be looking for a fucking house? No. Yeah, a few random people, some rich guy or whatever the fuck, might be thinking about buying property. And some smart customers, and I hope to be one of those personally. Some smart customers who've seen the collapse in real estate prices after a few months of this shit, yeah, they're going to go shopping, sure. They're going to go shopping for real estate because they got the cash. But, the regular guys, they're not going to buy a house. Nobody's going to buy any fucking house, right? So prices of real estate are going to fall. So if you took out a loan, a mortgage loan, you're going to be underwater, okay? Sure as carts to horses. So you got to figure out if the property that you own, right, with a big loan, with a big mortgage on it, right, the thing that you can't unload because nobody's buying, and the only price that they'd buy it would leave you just incredibly underwater with the loan, you got to see if it might be a smart idea to walk away from it. Yeah, just take the hit, okay? See, here's the thing. We're going through a period that this isn't going to end, okay? I mean, I just heard that some of the measures are being extended now because everybody's like sort of like waiting around to April, but already some people are starting to extend it through not April 6th, but moving on to April 24th and shit like that, right? I just heard actually, I mean, I'm stuck in Amsterdam. I want to be in Ukraine. In Ukraine, I got my kids, yeah, and I want to be with them, right? But I'm stuck here because I had to be here. I had to fly out on the 13th of March. And the next day, my airline canceled the flights. And by Monday, the borders have been closed and I was fucked. Okay, I'm stuck here. I'm not happy about this at all, as you can imagine. And although it's not only that the borders in Europe are shut down, the borders in Ukraine, all of them are shut down. Okay, so I can't get there. There's no way for me to get there. And it's pissing me off something awful, but okay, that's my problem. I lost track of what the fuck I was talking about. Yeah, this shit isn't going to go away soon. And every month that if it continues to go down, it's going to get worse and worse. And assets, real estate, they're going to go down in value, in price at least. Okay, they're going to go down in price by quite a bit. Okay, now it's not going to happen tomorrow. Okay, it's going to happen. Come back by like July, August. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about like a 35 to 50% discount of the prices of today. Yeah, that bad. Sure. Yeah, because there's no demand. Nobody is buying. They cannot buy. And here we come to the end. Okay, this is the last point I want to leave you with. See, this corona shit, right? It's going to burn through, right? I mean, that's what it looks like. It's going to burn through, and eventually we're going to get the all clear. Okay. Now, at the beginning of this conversation, I see I've gone close to 100 minutes on this shit. I said at the beginning of this conversation that what was going to happen was that, the peak of it was going to be in May, and assuming that it takes 30 days to get through this disease, this illness, it was going to be during June that people would recover. And just to make it as conservative as possible, I pushed that through July and August. And basically my position was that by the 1st of September, by Labor Day, right, this would be over, right? So let's assume that, which is a reasonable assumption, I think. I think most people would agree that based on the current data, mind you, based on the current information that we have available, it seems reasonable to infer that the peak of this pandemic will be in May, June, and during July, August, people will be recovering, and the last people will be getting over it, and by the end of August, by Labor Day, things should be back to normal. Or more to the point, people can be able to go back to work. If that's the case, I would actually think that there's going to be a huge boom in the fourth quarter of this year. Yeah, September, October, November, December. Yeah, well, that's actually the last third of the year, but you get my point. Yeah, I would think that there would be a big boom because people are going to be fucking bored. Okay, and people want to do shit. Nobody wants to stay at home. I mean, it's fun for a week. Okay, but after a while, people are going to start going stir crazy. Okay, people are already going stir crazy. You know, they talked to some cop. They asked him, you know, what's the biggest call that he's getting? Domestic violence. He said instantly. Yeah, of course. People want to throttle one another because you know human beings are not made to be cooped up all day with the same fucking faces all day long. We go nuts. I have a couple of people I've talked to say, well, you know, count yourself lucky that you're in Amsterdam because imagine being with your kids and the wife all day. How do you make out? You had a point, you know. I mean, I love them dearly, but yeah. So the end of this year, September, October, November, people get let out of their cages, and there could be like just a rush. I mean, just everybody just fucking on fire. Okay, that's an interesting possibility, a very interesting possibility. And it could be that during the summer of woe that we're going to experience, well, hear me out. There's going to be a lot of bankruptcies, a lot of financial mess, a lot of freak out, a lot of catastrophes, whatnot. A lot of people are going to die. And a lot of people that you actually know are going to die. Okay. I'm not talking about like, you know, granny and grandpa and shit like that, although that might be a possibility. And I'm sorry to say, I mean, we have to be realistic here. But there are going to be a lot of famous people who will probably croak. A lot of people in the zeitgeist, right? Now, why does that matter? Well, because these people who die, right? See, um, when you are near death, okay, you feel more alive. It's as simple as that. It's a human truth, okay? When you know of somebody who's died, somebody close to you, somebody that you know, you're not going to believe me. If this has never happened to you, you won't believe me, but those of you who have had this happen will know it's true. Um, a lot of times, the widow of some guy who's died suddenly, she gets really fucking horny. Yeah. And the guy whose wife dies also gets really fucking horny. Yeah. Guys who have been in like combat and see some guy that they know die. Yeah. They're like fucking machines. Yeah. Like little fucking energizer bunnies wanting to just stick their dick in every hole that they can come across. Yeah. Because when you come in contact with death, I mean, somebody close to you, it just flips a switch. Okay. And this is, I mean, I'm telling you, this is absolutely true. Okay. I mean, like in my own case, personally, like some people close to me whom I cared for very much passed away, and and I don't say this with any kind of shame because it's not a moral failing on my part. It's rather what I've come to realize, a built-in system. Okay, that I got horny as fuck. Yeah, I was just like, I just needed to bang every night, you know, and like not bang like you know a quickie and roll over and fall asleep. I'm talking like full on, full court, you know, go to town kind of fucking right because you know that kind of shock to the system, it just lights your instinct to survive and your instinct to reproduce. Simple as that. And so because of that, you know, and think of it on a collective level, if there's like a big if there are a lot of people who die, okay, which would be tragic for them, and I'm not minimizing this or belittling that, and it's truly going to be tragic. But if there are a lot of people who die, the survivors and they die, but this shit ends, okay, and that's the key issue. It sort of like ends. It's like done. There's going to be a fucking explosion, a fucking explosion of babies, a fucking explosion of industry. I mean, I'm not talking industry in the sense of like factories. I'm talking in the sense of like personal industry of people wanting to work, okay? Of people wanting to go to the office at fucking 6 in the morning and work until fucking 9, okay? And being happy, okay? Because it will be like this relief that they're alive. That's the thing. It's the relief of being alive, and others are dead. And they're alive and they're working and they're doing whatever the fuck that they're doing. And they're finally out of their fucking lockdown. They're finally out of their prison. For all the terrible shit that can happen during the summer, and I think it's going to be pretty bad, the fact is, come the fall, winter, it could be just like really fucking amazing. Okay. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but you see where I'm coming from here, right? This could be fucking amazing. Okay. So, yeah, yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. Okay, guys, listen. I've been yammering on for quite a bit, so this is what I'm going to do. Oh, I can't do this simultaneously. Shit. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. You guys in the chat, in the live chat, any question you have, I'm so sorry I can't pull you in because I don't have anything set up to pull you in, but I will for next week. Like I said, starting next week, I'm going to be doing a live stream that will have like, you can join it and you can ask questions. It'll be a go-to webinar. I'm going to set up a second tier for the go-to webinar, and in that second tier, it's going to be priced at $10 per month. And in that second tier, you can get all the videos that I put out. Those are going to be the $5 tier ones, plus the weekly live stream. Okay, I'm ironing out the details. I think I'm going to start doing it on Sundays. Sundays would be a good day, and do it on Sunday. I'm going to start on this Sunday, and do it on Sunday every Sunday. Okay, and so if you're on the $5 tier, you get the Wednesday video. But if you're on the $10 tier, you get the Wednesday video and the Sunday live stream. And you're going to be able to ask questions live and ask them like verbally and maybe with video, I think. I'm not sure if it has video for questions, but it definitely has audio, okay? And you'll be able to ask questions, and I'll do just Q&As and stuff like that because I like them. I like to do them. Unfortunately, I don't have that set up right now, so we're going to have to just do the live chat. Use the live chat to ask questions. Ask any question you want, but put the word question in all caps and then follow it with your question in just regular letters. I'll wait for you guys to catch up. Okay, question. Here's from Hascom. He says, how you become so financially literate? Any financial books we should read to further educate ourselves? You previously recommended The Black Swan, etc. Well, see, one of the websites that I would recommend you read is first of all, you have to read all the financial things, everything financial, okay? The Bloomberg, CNN, Business, all those. Just be on top of the news. And whenever you come across a term that you don't know, look it up. There are tons of resources online. Investopedia is one of them that can explain in great detail everything that you don't understand. So you just read the financial news. And whenever you come across something, just look it up. Simple as that, okay? 21-year-old living with parents, what should I focus on? Focus on helping out your parents. Tell them what I've told you, and they're more than welcome to listen to this live stream, which I'll have on the channel, the Patreon channel. Okay, so yeah, that was I've lost who was that? That was GRP. Daharo, question, could you please explain the buying of short positions for us who are noobs to the financial realm and what the return on investment can be? Is it directly proportional to the value drop? Well, you can look that up very easy. It's basically, it's called buying puts or short selling. Just look it up, okay? What it is basically say you make a contract that you are going to sell something today and deliver it into the future at the price that it is in the future. And so, of course, if you sell it today, today it's worth 100, the stock is worth 100, and you figure the stock is going to go down. So you sell the short today. You sell it today at 100, and you sell it for 30 days, right? So in 30 days' time, you have to deliver what you've sold, because what it is you're sort of like borrowing the stock, selling it now, with the promise that in 30 days you're going to return the stock, not the money, the stock, to whomever you borrowed it from, right? So you sell it today for 100, you wait 30 days, and say in 30 days it's gone down to 60. Well, what you do, you sold it for 100, so you have 100, so you go out and spend 60 on the stock, return it to the person you borrowed it from, and you pocket 40. That's the basic structure of it. Now, the mechanics of it, it's kind of difficult. Don't worry about it. I mean, like, uh, you need to be selling that kind of stuff, to be selling puts, buying longs, whatnot. You have to have like 4 to 5 figures to invest, and you should ask your financial advisor, or you should ask your investment bank, how to do this, and they can give you the tools. I can't. I mean, because it's too complicated, and on top of that, it's not my job. Yeah, but it is their job. Okay. Um, Darius Stravinska. Question. So you draw out the money. What do you do then? Buy cheap stocks in summer? No. You wait. You wait and keep your eyes open to see what's going on. Okay. Like I said at the beginning, now I cannot tell you what's going to happen by fucking February, by fucking September. Okay. Nobody knows. Like I explained before, it could be hyperinflationary or it could be deflationary. So buying anything, no. What I am doing is I am all cash and I'm waiting. I'm waiting and I'm going to see if things change. Okay? Or let me phrase that. I'm waiting to see where the wind blows. That's the metaphor. I'm waiting to see where the wind blows. Okay? If it's blowing from the south, if it's blowing from the north, I got to wait. Right now there's no wind. So I have to wait. It's as simple as that. You got to be patient. That's the thing. So many guys who invest, they get real impatient. They're like, gotta do something, gotta do something. No, you don't. You can fucking wait. You can just wait and see what happens. That's the wise approach. I hope I have answered your question, Darius. Bill 7, question. What are they hiding about the virus? Is it really bad? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Bill, I think that it's really fucking bad. Okay. Okay, and this is my, you can take it or leave what I'm about to say, and I know it sounds insane, but I'll say it. The word I'm hearing from China is that they lost between 15 and 18 million people dead. That's the word. Okay. I many years, well, not that many years ago, about 5 years ago, I did a deal with China, with Chinese government, as a matter of fact, China Power, which is a utility there, an energy company. And we did a deal, and it was for a lot of money, and I made out very well. And yeah, and I kept in touch with a couple of those guys. They were nice fellows, and they kept in touch with me because they wanted to improve their English on the one hand, and on the other hand, they were like, they wanted to have like some friend or somebody to talk to outside of their country that they could vent. I talked to one of these fellows a few days ago, and the word is that in the upper echelons of the Communist Party and whatnot, that yeah, it was about 15 million. Okay. And by way of a totally different route, there's this girl, this Chinese girl. She's out in New York. She tweets a lot about this shit. I forget her name. But if you go to my Twitter feed, it's Real Gonzalo Lira. I have retweeted her several times. She came across, or somebody slipped her, the number of users of China Mobile. And see, for the last 2 years, it was month by month, the numbers, the figures of how many users they had for their different networks, 3G, 4G, eventually 5G and such, right? And every month they had more and more users, every month except January and February. In January and February, they lost 8.7 million users, okay? Just one company. There are three, by the way. They lost 8.7 million users in the months of January and February, especially February. February was the big hit. They lost like 7 million, okay, users. Does that mean that they all died? You tell me. But it would square pretty nicely with what this guy I know out in China was saying, that the rumor is that it's 15 to 18 million. Yeah, it would square real fucking nicely with that figure now, wouldn't it? Yeah. But and so if the civilian leadership in the Western democracies knows this, because intelligence and whatnot, and they figured it out, because they've got all kinds of brain power working to figure out what the fuck happened in China right now. Of course, CIA, NSA, all those fuckers, they've got all their antennas, all their sources. They're doing everything in their power to find out what the fuck happened. Okay. Yeah, they totally missed the boat back in January, but now they're on the ball and they want to know. And I bet that they do know. And I think that information, they must have passed it to the political leadership with enough proof that the political leadership believed it, Trump believed it, and they went whole hog on this shit and shut down the whole economy. Yeah, I think that they know that this is horrifying. Yeah, yeah, that's my thinking. But we will never know, or let me phrase it, we'll know in about 10 to 20 years. Okay? That's when we'll know. We're not going to know it like next year or next month or any shit like that. You know? It's just like the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution and all the horrors that happened in China during those periods, right? We didn't find out about it. The West didn't find out about it for decades. It eventually came out, fucking horrifying, but it came out when all the people who had participated in it or had been responsible for it were dead. See, that's how the Chinese work. They wait around until all the people die, and then they tell you. Nick's Logic says, question, a new virus killed a man today called the Hanta virus. Yeah, I heard. I don't think it means anything. Okay, well, it could be, yeah, but yeah. But I don't think it means anything. Yeah, because just fuel to the fire. Because I mean, like when a lot of people start dying of the hantavirus, then I'll take it seriously. One guy died, it could be anything. Let me see. Question: do you think the airlines? This is Raw Williams. Question: do you think the airlines will recover quickly? That's the several billion dollars question. I don't know. I just do not know. Yeah. I would certainly not invest in an airline. Fuck no. It'd be insane, but I have no idea. I mean, look, the national airlines will obviously survive because they're national airlines and the governments of those countries will bail them out or nationalize them or whatever the fuck. US airlines and stuff like that, budget airlines and whatnot, who knows? Who knows? Chris Puckett says, question, but couldn't that be mobile users who lost their accounts because of unemployment? It could be, could very well be, but think of it. If you're stuck in an apartment, right, do you really want to shut off your phone? And, having a cell phone is not that expensive. That's the whole point of it. That's why so many people have it. I'm not clear that people would shut their account if they're unemployed. Fact of the matter is, if I were unemployed and I was looking for work, why on earth would I shut my phone down? Because then nobody can call me. I can't call anybody to find a job. See what I'm saying? Hascom, question. I'm a graduating college student and have a great urge to hike the Appalachian Trail. How important is it to acquire and hold a job during this time period? Hascom, that sounds like a fucking fun idea. I would do it if I were there. Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, to tell you the truth, if I were like in a bigger country, I'd get a motorcycle and just drive around. Yeah, fuck this shit, If you have the chance to go do the Appalachian Trail, fucking do it. What the fuck better thing do you have to do, man? Come on. I mean, everybody's just like sitting around, they're dick in their hand and watching porn or Netflix all day. Do something fun. That sounds like fucking fun. I would definitely do it. Definitely do it. The Mr. Krez question: how does this change the go to Africa discussion? Well, in Africa, man, they're gonna fucking die like flies. So that there's that. Okay, I would not go to Africa now. Okay, of course, when I made the suggestion before, fuck yeah, there was no disease, but now there's no fucking infrastructure to handle the amount of deaths that is going to happen in Africa. I would not fucking go there now. No fucking way. After this is over, sure. When they've used the, those big old, like earth movers to move all the bodies around, because that's the kind of thing that they're going to have there. Yeah, they're going to drop like flies. It's going to be horrifying. I mean, this is assuming that the data we currently have more or less continues on into the future. And at this time, there's no reason to doubt that. So yeah, it's going to be horrible. CCLCML question. Any dating or meetup strategy for incels under this social distancing? No, nobody's going to get fucking laid. I mean, unless they're already with somebody. But a lot of guys who are more like dependable sort, more, not so sexy, but, on top of their shit, they're going to get more attention paid to them, Yeah. So, yeah, but this shit, look, this is a pause in everybody's life, okay? So, you got to treat it as such. And use it for something good, like reading books and shit like that, yeah. Question. I have a mortgage and 10% of the mortgage in cash. Should I spend the cash on the mortgage? I don't know. Your situation whatsoever it may be, that's really your business. I can't tell you what to do. Like financial decisions, I think it's actually illegal. Okay, and that's my concern, because if it's illegal, then I get into a shitload of trouble, and I don't want to get into a shitload of trouble. uh, what I would do is just get as much cash as possible. Yeah, write it out in cash. That's my basic position. That is what I am doing. Question. How, I mean, by the way, Velen, sorry if I'm not more helpful in that regard, but uh, that's bottom line. That's what I would do. Smalley Biggs, question. How do I make lots of money? How do I do this when America is about to go all in on socialism, or if economic outlook is like Zimbabwe? Good question. Don't know. Question. Laxan Saran. Question. Are democracies of the Western countries will be changed after the pandemic is over? Again, I don't know. Because we're just starting this. We've just been barely 2 weeks into this shit, okay? So how things are going to be on the other side? I mean, like, for instance, it's reasonable that once this shit is over and done with, there's going to be explosion of energy among people. That's a reasonable outcome, okay? Because that usually happens in these kinds of crises historically, okay? After a prolonged period of suffering and whatnot and just fear, there's like this big pop of energy. So that's a reasonable inference of what will happen in the future. But how will the country go socialist? Will the U.S. be socialist, or the Western democracies are fucked? I don't know. I wish I could tell you, but I don't know. Question from Darius Stravinskas: would you buy oil or oil companies at below 20? I don't know which ones are going to be around after once it hits below 20. That's the problem. See, they're all on the table. They could all lose their heads. They could all go bankrupt. Any of them. So I don't know which to choose. See, look, there's another thing. Basically, you're saying when to buy. When you buy into a market, okay, when everybody else is buying, when the market is definitely going up, okay, when everybody feels that the worst is behind them and they're sunny blue skies ahead, okay, that's when you buy. And you'll say to me, but yeah, you're not buying at the bottom of the market. Well, only a fucking imbecile tries to buy at the bottom of the market, okay? You don't try to buy at the bottom of the market because nobody knows when you hit the bottom of the market, okay? There's always some guy who actually did buy at the bottom of the market, but it was luck, okay? It's not that great timing. It was just he got lucky. Just as there's always some guy who wins the lottery. Yeah, there are some guys who almost win the lottery, and then there are like you and me who get none of the numbers right. Yeah, we're like as far away from possible as winning the lottery. But you see my point. There's always a guy who lucks out and buys it right at the bottom. There's always that guy. Okay, but you cannot time that. And that guy, you got that by luck. Okay, you want to buy when there's firm momentum, when you can feel the wind at your back. When everybody's buying, that's when you buy. And don't worry. Look, if some stock, right, bottoms out at 20, and then starts rising, and hits 21, 22, it hits 25, and you get on it at 25, don't think, oh, I lost out on that 5. No. Think of the forward gain you're going to have. Because if it hit 20, rock bottom, and then it clips up to 25, and then keeps on going up to 30, 35, 40, you're making money. Shut the fuck up, okay? Because, see, if you'd bought it at 20, what would have happened if it had gone down to 19, 18, 50? You see what I'm saying? Don't try to time any market. That's insane. Just buy when there is the wind at your back, when it's clear how they're going to make money, okay? Okay. Steve Simon said, I skipped a few. Darius Stravinsky, would you use the draw out cash, destroy your credit rating strategy if you are in Europe, not USA? Check the laws, because I know the laws in the US. This is what I would do. Okay, I'm not suggesting you do it. Okay, I want to make it very, very clear. I'm not suggesting anybody else do it. Just this is what I would do because I'm that kind of a guy. But I would be before I make any kind of decision like that, I want to research the fuck out of it. And like I said, I personally would want to get as many credit cards as possible. Okay. Carmen in question. Hey coach, I recently bought a pre-construction condo and I don't know. That's forget about that. That's that specific. I'm not going to answer that. Steve Simon question. Would the bank system collapse? Should we all cash out now? That's a good fucking question. That's the $1 million question or the $1 trillion question. Okay. Yeah. The question is, should we cash out now? Because if the banks collapse, what's going to happen with our money? That's a good fucking question. Okay, well, if the banks collapse, we're in a shitload of trouble. And I'm guessing that the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department in the United States and their counterparts in Europe, they're not going to let any bank fail because it would be just too many shocks. Okay? I mean, if we're talking about it, like, really, actually, now that I'm talking to you guys, I'm actually really thinking about this problem because it's been in the back of my head. And let's face it. Okay, a bank is in real trouble. Let's say Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank is in actual trouble. Deutsche Bank is a dead man walking, and it's been a dead man walking for a couple of years now, right? We have the coronavirus. We have this collapse in the economy. The Germans are going to save Deutsche Bank. Yeah, they can't afford to let it fail. Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, obviously, they can't. Okay? I mean, fuck their principles. I mean, they just recently said that it was okay to go into debt. You know, they walked back their whole, never go into debt shit, right? Yeah, the Germans are not going to allow Deutsche Bank to go under, and therefore the Americans would not let any of their banks go under either. Yeah, bottom line. Bottom line, they don't care if the stock price goes to rock bottom, but they are not going to let it go bankrupt. Okay? They are not going to nationalize the banks either because it would be too much of a shock to the system. It would freak everybody out too much. It would just be one shock too many, I mean, that's my thinking at this time. It could change, okay? But looking at the situation now, people are, they're freaked out by this shit, okay? And when the bodies start piling up, when people because right now we're hearing about stories about this guy's friend or that guy's aunt is sick with COVID, right? Seriously sick. I mean, like sick, like hospital and ventilator tubes and all that shit, right? We're hearing about it, right? In Italy, everybody knows somebody who's seriously sick or dead, okay? And so when this starts to happen in like Germany, well, it's already kind of happening in Germany already, but like in the UK and America and Australia and so on, they're going to, it's going to be a big shock to people. And so I think that what will happen is the political leadership and the financial leadership will realize that a financial crisis would be one shock too many. It would just be too much, okay? It would just cause riots, panicking, God knows what. I mean, it would cause so much social unrest that it is better to bail them out. So yeah, any bank, I can say that now unequivocally. Any bank that's in trouble, it will be bailed out, one way or the other. And so I think that the depositor's money is going to be safe, okay? It might be devalued by way of extreme inflation. I don't want to call it hyperinflation, but let's just call it extreme inflation. But yeah, they're not going to let any bank fail, and therefore your money is safe. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Question from Dark Platform. Question: do you think the treatment of malaria hydroxychloroquine could turn the waves of the crisis? I think that's a pipe dream. And I've said this on January 28th. I did a long Twitter thread on this thing. And I said, back in late January, I said that they would dangle the hope of some cure or some vaccine. And it's just to pacify the people. There is no cure. There is no vaccine. Okay? And do you know how I know for a fact there's no cure? And that this whatever the fuck, whatever, the malaria drug doesn't work? See, if it fucking worked, the Chinese would have used it now, wouldn't they? And they would have been crowing about it and telling everybody about it, and they'd be manufacturing it and selling it to people. Yeah? Wouldn't they? Fuck yeah, they would. Yeah, it's just pipe dreams, okay? Oh yeah. I watched an interview on Glenn's show of a Floridian that recovered with that treatment. Maybe they would have recovered anyway. Hmm? Yeah. I mean, I personally think that it's bullshit. Okay. Because again, if it worked, the Chinese would have done it and they'd be telling people about it and selling them the drug. Yeah. Question. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Dark Platform. Tristan Serap, question. I'm stuck in Spain and I live in America and I can't come back. All I'm doing here is training tennis here because I want to become a tennis professional. What should I do? Well, you're going to be stuck there for a long fucking time. So just get good at tennis. What can I say? M says, question. Is Japan and South Korea full of shit? How do you explain the low number of cases and deaths in those countries compared to your thoughts on the real numbers in China? Good question, M. I don't worry about it. And I'll tell you why. I remember back in like early 80s, early 80s. Yeah, AIDS popped up, right? And I remember reading about it. I was like 12 years old, whatever. And it was in like Time magazine, right? And they were all very confused because a lot of Haitians were getting it and they didn't understand why, okay? A lot of Haitian people, men and women, were getting it and no clue why. And they were talking genetic, this and that, because it was gay men, hemophiliacs, and Haitians. And it took a while, it took several years actually, until they finally realized what was going on. A lot of the Haitian men were bisexual. And a lot of these bisexual Haitian men were actually prostitutes, male prostitutes, who were having sex for money uh, and, um, and then going back to their girlfriends and fucking their girlfriends. And that's how a lot of men and women got AIDS and died of it. And they were Haitian because of the fact that they were prostituting themselves. You see? And it came out and nobody really wanted to talk about it, but that's what was going on, right? Now, I'm not saying anything of the sort insofar as Japan and South Korea. What I'm saying is that, see, some explanation will come up. At some point in the future, everybody like, oh, that's why that happened, okay? Right now, for instance, in Germany, Germany has a significant number of cases, not as many as Spain or Italy, but a significant number. I forget right now. I'll look it up as we're talking. But what's going on in Germany is that they have very, very few deaths, right? And everybody's like, why the fuck? I'm looking at the numbers right now. They have 32,000 cases, almost 33,000 cases, and only 159 deaths compared to Italy, that has roughly twice as many. It has 69,000 cases, but it has 6,800 dead, which is a lot more than double 159 dead, which is what Germany has. Why is that the case? Don't know. But what I do know is that in time, we'll figure it out. The data will settle and we'll find a very, very reasonable explanation and we'll be like, yeah. And it's not going to be like something, nobody's hiding any data in those countries or any shit like that. It'll be a very reasonable explanation that that right now we don't see because we don't have enough data or we don't have the insight. We just don't know at this time, but it will come out, so don't worry about it. Okay. DSD Mail question: do you still expect major disruptions like power outages, state border lockdowns, etc.? Yes, yes, I do believe so, and I am convinced that we are. Oh, let me phrase that. Not convinced. I believe that we could potentially reach a point where we have food distribution disruptions. That was an awkward phrase. Disruptions in our food distribution system. That's equally awkward, but you get the point. There isn't going to be food. I don't think it's going to be permanent. I think it's going to be just for a while, okay? Just for a few weeks, maybe, okay? In different places, maybe the military will have to distribute food. Now, why would this happen? Well, there are going to be so many people sick. If there are so many people sick, then what would happen is that, see, the people who manufacture the food, I mean, I'm not talking about the farmers, I'm talking about the people who have to process food. There's a lot of steps to process food, and a lot of it is automated, sure, but you need people. You need truckers. You need a whole infrastructure, and that infrastructure is filled with people. And if those people are sick or they are caring for some family member who is sick and therefore cannot work, it's reasonable to infer that that food distribution network is going to be disrupted. and potentially interrupted. And if it's interrupted, well, you're not going to have food now, are you? That's my thinking. My thinking also is that, see, if I don't get any, what you call it, I have purchased a lot of food, basically, roughly a month's supply. I think that that's pretty much enough. A little bit over a month, I calculate. If I wanted to, I can stretch it out to a month and a half, almost 2 months, if I really wanted to stretch it out. Well, maybe I will. I'll add it up. But the point is, see, if if I'm totally wrong on this issue and there's no distribution, no disruption of the food supply, then so what? I bought a couple of months supply of food and I'll just eat it up anyway, right? That's the worst case scenario, the absolute worst that can happen. And the best case scenario is there is a disruption and therefore I have food and I'll be sitting pretty and not starving to death and not having to make an eternal line and not be worried that somebody's going to steal my food. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. Velin Ristov says, question, what if I buy a pistol for protection? I can't tell you that, okay? Each of us has to make up his or her mind as to how he thinks that he needs to protect himself. I cannot make that, I cannot answer that for you. Christopher Rivera, question, with a weakened economy, what industries will still continue to thrive? Again, you got to wait and see, okay? Because it's not obvious which ones will survive and thrive. For instance, like Facebook, they are having like a bumper year in terms of users. Everybody's on Facebook. I mean, the numbers are astronomical, but they have less income because people aren't advertising. Why aren't they advertising? Because they advertise, but the people can't go and buy their shit or their restaurant or whatever the fuck. You see what I'm saying? And so you would think, oh, well, Facebook has the more users than ever. That's a good buy. But on the other hand, they've got no income, no advertising revenue, or a lot less advertising revenue is coming in rather. And so you see my point? You gotta, I can't predict it, okay? You gotta pay attention. And like I said, like I've been saying the whole time, we are in the early days. And what we think now might not be the case in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months. We gotta wait and see. Okay, and keep our eyes open. I don't know what Event 201 is. Question, I guess future will tell, but what do you think of countries like Sweden or Belarus who have taken limited or no measures at all for the coronavirus? I'd like to see what happens in those countries that have done nothing. That's an interesting question because that'll be the test case. You know, the control group. Those countries that are like, fuck it, we're just going to keep on living normal lives. We'll see how they make out. If they make out all right, then the lockdown decision wasn't the best decision now, wasn't it? If they have catastrophic collapse of their medical infrastructure because of all the cases, then we know that we will have made the right decision. Oh, sorry about that. Jackson Lawrence Costa says, question, will the government going to kill people who are infected like North Korea? No, they're not going to do that. I mean, North Korea, they will, but in the rest of the world, no. Mattis Slim Cool says, question, what kind of self-defense tool will you use? I prefer not to answer that question, Mattis. Good question, but I'll keep that to myself. Question, Coach, I'm 20 years old. What path would you take if you were my age and wanted to become financially successful as quick as possible? Well, now is not the time, okay? Now is the time to just look around and see what's going on, okay? Now you're not going to make any fortune now. Everything's shut down, okay? Money's not circulating. So just look around, pay attention, read good books. Yeah, that. Use the time wisely is what I would say. You're not going to make money, so forget about it, you know? Think about other shit. Richard Poche says, question, what do you think the government will do if entire police forces are infected with a virus? Deploy the military? Seems reasonable. Wouldn't you do that? Will Patterson, question, do you think this recession will end the U.S.'s economic superiority over the global market and have China rise as the new number one? No, I think a lot of people are pissed off. China is doing this whole PR offensive in all the countries around the world, but I think that people are going to realize that this was man-made because it was, undeniably, okay? Unquestionably. I mean, we're all fucking grown-ups, right? See, You know why the Ebola virus is called the Ebola virus? Because it was found near the Ebola River. Yeah? What's the significance of the Ebola River? Well, nothing. It's in the middle of fucking nowhere, in like the Republic of Congo or some shit like that. There's nothing around, okay? I mean, some shithole, right? It's actually in some caves and some shit like that, right? That's where it came from. That's where the virus came from. Now, what about Marburg? Yeah, it also from some town in Germany. There's nothing there. It's a it's a shithole, quaint, but a shithole, boring as fuck, right? And you go through all the pandemic viruses and whatnot. They all popped up in just random places, just totally random fucking places, like Ebola by the Ebola River, Marburg, yeah. But this one, where does it pop up? It pops up in this market, yeah. And it has like characteristics of like bat, and they say that it's like bat soup or some shit like that, right? But like, what's like 10 kilometers away? Oh, there's like this level 4 virology lab, the only level 4 virology lab in all of China. And China's a fucking big country, right? It's not like fucking Liechtenstein, right? That you can cross it in an afternoon. No, no, no. China is a big fucking country. But this fucking market is just where this virus all of a sudden magically appeared. It's 10 fucking kilometers from a level 4 lab, the only one in China. Yeah. And again, China is a big country and it's a rich country. So this must be really fucking important. And on top of that, what were they working on? Oh, they were working on bat viruses. Bat viruses, and they were fucking around with this since 2015. And they were seeing how to combine bat viruses with HIV viruses, the purposes of which I do not fucking know, but they were actually fucking doing this. And we know because there's the archive of the fuckers that worked there that were advertising for postdoctoral fellows to work there, and what were the requirements, and what was the direction of the research. Huh? Come on. This shit was man-made. They didn't release it on purpose. If they'd released it on purpose, they would have released it in fucking New York City, not in fucking Wuhan. No, they had an accident, okay? They had an accident. Who knows how it happened? Yeah. They had an accident. This shit came out. And that's why the Chinese government freaked the fuck out, because they know how dangerous this shit is, and they know that they're responsible for it. Do you think that they acted this way when SARS happened? No, they didn't. They didn't give a fuck. People got sick. They were like, fuck you, slave. Go back to your factory. That's why we have you here. Yeah? But with this one, they were covering their asses like there was no tomorrow. Why? Because they know they were responsible for this shit. So this is a long-winded way of saying that, people are not going to forget this. And it's going to come out that they did this shit. They're going to sequence this, the genes to this virus, and they're going to figure it out, And people know it. These fuckers stole virology information from the Canadians and Harvard. I mean, no, it's going to come out. It's going to come out, and there's going to be hell to pay for it. There's going to be fucking hell to pay for it. Yeah. The Mr. Krez question, which books do you recommend for these times? Long books. Yeah, that's what I recommend. Yeah. Question, do you think the stimulus package is a way to start off a universal basic income to control people's decisions in the future? Possibly. The lefties want that so bad. Nietzschean objectivist. Question, do you think the dollar will remain the world's reserve currency? Too soon to tell, but it's iffy. Tristan Sarah, question, what are your thoughts on cannabis? My thoughts are like, I'm too stoned to tell. Yeah, and final question, Philippe Lindewald. Question, do you think it could bring down the Communist Party as Chernobyl was a factor bringing down the Soviet Union? No. The Chinese are going to hold on tight. The communists in China are going to hold on tight. They're not going to give it up. No fucking way. Yeah. Dom J, question, should those of us with large savings think about buying a house when prices start going down in the next few months? I can't tell you what to do, but I personally think to myself that, real estate, houses, whatnot, they're always going to be around. Yeah. Stocks come and go, bonds come and go, this, that comes and goes. But, you know, a house, an apartment, you know, rental property, it's always there. It's not going to fucking move. Yeah. And nobody's going to go out of their way to take it away from you, right? Yeah. I mean, if you have like some like a few small apartments here and there scattered around, not in all one place, right? Because what happens if the apartment building burns down, right? You're fucked. But I mean, like scattered all over the place, right? And you have several properties, right? And they all produce an income for you. Well, you're sitting pretty now, aren't you? Yeah. So if prices are going to fall because there's no demand, and there are going to be huge buying opportunities, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take advantage of those buying opportunities. That's what I'm going to do. What you do, you're on your own, but that's what I'm going to do. King Platinum Ice. Question: your estimated time frame for all of this to clear up? Like I said at the beginning, I think it'll be over by Labor Day. Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think it's reasonable to say, but by Labor Day, it's all over but the shouting. And question, this is a final one. Darius Stravinska, I've answered a lot of yours. Why do you expect a long recession? Because you mentioned a possible boom in the fourth quarter. Yeah, because this thing is going to take a long time to play out. I discussed it at the beginning of this video. So, okay, we've gone 2 hours. I think I've bored you guys enough, and I'm losing my voice, actually. Because like I said, I think I have this shit. And so, yeah, I've been sort of like under the weather since last Monday. Not the day before yesterday, but the Monday before. And it's been on and off kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think I got this shit. Well, you know, that's life. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope I've given you some insights and some thoughts about this situation. Yeah. It's these are exciting times, and the thought I want to leave you with is that, see, be aggressive in getting to a safe haven, okay? Like, reduce your risk is what I'm saying, as quickly as possible now. And be very reluctant to take any risk at this time, okay? Understand what the risks are, okay? You don't have to worry about what's going to happen next year, okay? You have to worry about what's going to happen next month. Can you afford food and shelter for next month? If you can't, then do whatever is necessary to get it. I outlined some very clear ideas to maximize your cash on hand. And of course, if anybody does this, they'd crater their credit score, and it'd probably be for years. And probably, you know, somebody's going to try to chase you down the line and get you to pay up. But it's going to be a while. I mean, I think, because everybody is in lockdown. This is like a big old holiday. There's something else too. A lot of criminals are realizing that there are no cops around. They're on lockdown too. And so a lot of criminals, a lot of nasty people are around, okay? They're taking advantage of the situation. Now, of course, I think that that's awful, but it sort of like proves my point. You can set yourself up now to survive this, and nobody's gonna stop you, okay? In a very real sense, we are in a lawless state, because the law, what we think of as the law, the police, the collection agencies, this, that, the other, they are pretty much powerless right now, okay? This is way bigger than them, see? If I had debts, I don't. I don't have any debts, actually. But if I had debts, I would suspend payment on them, yeah? I would suspend payment on all my debts because I need the cash now to survive. I need for shelter and food, yeah? That's what I need it for. And fuck student debt, fuck anything else. I want to have cash, okay? Because I don't know how things are going to be in 60 days. I don't fucking know how they're going to be in 6 days, okay? It could be that, you know, this whole thing tapers off all of a sudden and it's gone like nothing. And we're all back to work like, you know, in 10 days. That would be wonderful, okay? Is that going to happen? No, okay? So you got to be fucking realistic. And you have to understand too, pay attention to what people are doing and not what they're saying. If the government is pushing for this total lockdown, then they are really fucking scared. People don't crash an economy for no fucking reason. Whatever they know, whatever bit of information that is key to understanding the situation, it is horrifying, okay? It is scarier than the thought of a ruined economy. That should give you pause. Now, I've told you a couple of unsubstantiated rumors that, the Chinese lost 15 million people. They are unsubstantiated, right? But I can't think of anything else that would scare the Western governments so completely that they would be willing to destroy the Western economies. I mean, that's the bottom line. I can't think of anything that would be that scary, except if this shit is really, really horrifying. Now, I know two people. I know them personally, directly. I have spoken to them on the phone, and they have COVID-19. Okay, they're going to make it, right? But they are very healthy, and it has been very, very trying for them both. Okay, and it just keeps on going on and on, and never seems to go away. Okay, and they're exhausted by this shit, and they've both been at it for one's been at it for 2 weeks, and the other's been having it. She's had it since the last week of February. It's coming up on 4 weeks of this shit. Okay, and she still feels like death. Okay, but she's not dead, thank goodness. But my point, see, this is the people who have had it. It's not pretty. It's not easy. They don't get over it. Okay, so let me phrase it. They do get over it eventually, but it's not snap, crackle, and pop. Okay, it takes a while. So this is going to be a while, and yeah. Okay, I'm done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time. Take it easy, guys.